government they intend to make sure that this then is addressed. Away from it, Ruto Raila trade words on calls for defiance, a story captured on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. We'll also be looking at that, the politics of the handshake, whether it is likely to be there, one that has been castigated, and some saying that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga has been sending emissaries to request for the same, and equally on the other side they say that the president as well has been sending theirs, but when asked they all say that nothing like that is going to play out. But just what will be left of the people of Kenya as we await this grand day of the Azimio declaration as pertaining to them marching to State House, asking for the government to address key factors that they think would be necessary and indeed a priority for the people of Kenya as at now: the high cost of living, the formation of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, as well as other matters as pertaining to the political situation in the country. On the other side, Angola to deploy troops to DRC, a story captured on the on page 23, that is in the world section. Even as we watch the difficulties that the people of the Democratic Republic of the Congo are going through amidst all these tough times, triggered by the existence of M23 and the numerous other instability cases as pertaining to the politics there. Away from it, forex reserves shrink amid dollar crisis, a story captured on page 20. It's not easy in Kenya and across other countries, especially the African countries, also in the cases of inflation and the difficult times as pertaining to the economy. That one we'll be looking at even as we continue with the broadcast. And on this other side, as to the banditry attacks, the CS for Interior Kindiki, a new threat to eliminate bandits. And Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki yesterday issued a 24-hour ultimatum to residents to vacate suspected bandit hideouts in 6 North Rift counties. Professor Kindiki also banned non-security aircraft travel in several areas. A story captured on the front page, expounded on page 5 of the Standard newspaper. Briefly, we look at what the front page of the Daily Nation speaks of. And Public Service Commission writes, letter to protest move by salaries body, that the public servants said to lose PACs, an uphill task, as the Salaries Commission reveals that among those targeted for review are retreat, sitting and non-practice allowances, but acknowledges that its efforts to lower the wage bill have faced strong resistance. This is a story captured on page 7 of the Standard newspaper. Some of the allowances to be scrapped off include those ones that I have mentioned right there. And Ms. Lynn Mengich then argues public service institutions shall be required to furnish SRC with all allowances payable in their institutions for review. Just what will it be like as we await to see the reactions that continue to crop up as pertaining to the same, even as the public servants would certainly continue to cry foul. But just what informs these adjustments, as they say, it is a problem that is playing out in the country, and this in a bid to make sure that we're able to balance the activities of the economy, to cut down on cost, and also service those, budgetary allocations that have not been serviced well because of the difficulties in terms of us having the monies that we generate very little in terms of revenue collection, but and the very same is not able to manage our 3-point-something trillion budget. And away from it, as to the question of politics, no way, Ruto tells Raila on call to stop selection of electoral commissioners, and the president maintains that he followed the law in the setting up of these ones that are supposed to pick the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission officials. And he says that he focused on making sure that he gazettes the right names as pertaining to what the Constitution dictates, and the select committee is set and rolling to give us the next commissioners, even as the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and his counterparts argue that the president is focused on getting individuals that he will micromanage. We'll be looking at that, and we get to see whether the government then will bow to this very pressure. Ministry's 53 billion boost to pay junior secondary teachers, a story captured on the back page of the Daily Nation. Education given about 597 billion in new budget proposal. The budget policy statement will be tabled in Parliament. That is tomorrow. The cash is to fund junior secondary, hire more teachers, as well as improve school infrastructure. Just how important is this, and how possible is it, even as we continue to struggle on making sure that the competency-based curriculum then slides in well? Teachers Union protest at detailed pay for examiners in 2022 tests. Also, these are some of the difficulties that the education sector continues to face. KUPPET chairperson Mboko Milemba says that the work itself is characterized by long hours, poor accommodation, poor diet, and above all, low pay, and therefore some of these compensations are necessary. Another story on the front page of the Daily Nation: residents in bandit areas given 24 hours to move out. That also is a developing story that we'll be following up on to give you updates. Final act for South African rapper Costa Teach. The artist collapsed while he was performing on Saturday evening at the Ultra South Africa concert in Joburg. A story captured on page 3. May his soul rest in eternal peace. South Africa loses a second one in such a short span, from AKA now to Teach. We can only hope that, of course, we get to, have the family, manage to get themselves to a point where they will accept this. I know it's not easy, but like we rightfully say, we say condolences to them. And the People Daily, front page of the People Daily. Let's see what it details this morning. Ruto, no turning back on the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission jobs. That is the biggest conversation this morning, and we'll be having this alongside the gentleman that will join me for the conversation, and we'll update you accordingly. It's a story that is on the front page of the People Daily, expounded on page 4 and page 5 of the same. Miracles turn to tears for poor believers as well. That's a story captured on page 3. That is when then you have to take lots of money, or all the money that you have, the promise that it will multiply, or the promise that some of the problems that you're facing will be addressed. That is at the level of church. Away from it, move out ahead of bandit crackdown, warns the CS. That also, I have said, is a developing story. We'll be following up on to make sure that you are updated. Those are the key stories as well on the front page of the People Daily. Now allow us to pick these ones that have been prepared by my team. And Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has assured Kenyans that there is a team looking into alternative ways that the country can adapt to help lower the cost of electricity, which will then reduce the cost of living. Gachagua says power rationing is not part of the solution.
The government is concerned about the cost of power, and a lot of things are happening behind the scenes. We are having a problem because of the prolonging drought and the effects of climate change and 5 failed consecutive seasons. All electricity generated through hydro, there's a problem. And in another 2-3 weeks, we'll have a very serious shortage. So the idea has been to expand to geothermal, solar energy, and wind energy, progressively in terms of long-term solutions. Because like the independent power producers are very expensive, because they use diesel, and diesel is very, even in your own home, you have a standby generator, you know how expensive it is. So the government is well sized that the issue of cost of power is affecting the economy badly, because it brings up the cost of manufacturing, and that cost of manufacturing due to cost of power is passed to the consumer. So along the way, there are many things going on, which I don't want to delve in at this stage, because they are still at the policy level. They are still at a discussion in cabinet. I don't want to diverge what is going on in cabinet, but I want to assure the people of Kenya that there is a big team of men and women, experts on power, who are burning the midnight oil to come up with sources of alternative energy, with a view of bringing the cost of power down to boost manufacturing and production. Because as long as the cost of power is up, we will not be able to bring down the cost of living. So it is something that there is a team of men and women who are working day and night, and in the next several weeks, there will be a policy pronouncement on that aspect of what the government intends to do to bring down the cost of power.
Is rationing an option on the table?
I can't say at this stage. I am hoping we'll not get a South African state where we have to ration.
Okay.
I hope we'll not be able to get there. I was in South Africa in December, and it's not a very decent way of. But I am saying that discussion is going on. We need to appraise the situation. What are the water levels? What is the amount of power we can get from the hydro dams? What is it that we can get from geothermal? What is it we can get from solar? What is it we can get from wind? What is it that we can get from across the country? Against our overall requirement. And then decisions will be made depending on the deficit.
And the directive by Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki for residents to vacate areas perceived as bandit hideouts is already causing mixed reactions, with many residents saying they have nowhere to go. Residents living in some parts of the North Rift region, described as scenes of crime and believed to be bandit hideouts, have until today, that is to vacate, following an order by Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki. Those found in the said areas after the deadline will be treated as bandits. Moige William with more on this report.
With the ongoing joint police and KDF operation yielding little results, if any, the Ministry of Interior had decided to overhaul the operation, focusing on taking the battle to the bandits' doorstep. Despite a heavy security deployment in the Banditry Riddle counties along the Kerio Valley, the bandits have continued terrorizing residents, leaving death, destruction and theft in their wake. Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki, while touring Samburu County, noted security agencies have been gathering intelligence and have come up with the areas they believe act as hideouts for the bandits, and ordered residents to vacate the said areas within 24 hours. The areas include hills and valleys in more than 20 places, which are spread out in Baringo, Laikipia, Samburu and Turkana counties. Anyone found at the said areas after the deadline will be considered a bandit.
These criminals have invited members of the public to go and live with them there. We suspect they could be family members. We suspect they could be relatives. We don't know who they are, but we have evidence of women and children who are living with the criminals in the gorges and the escarpments. According to Kindiki, the said areas are also home to dangerously armed criminals, a scenario that could have made it difficult to take on the bandits without human casualties. The bandits, he says, are holed up in difficult terrain, remote and inaccessible areas at the bottom of the gorges, escarpments, caves, ravines, hills and forests. And we cannot be in a democratic country, a modern country like Kenya, and yet have criminals taunting security officers, attacking even security officers. If this thing is left to continue, it will get out of hand and it will hurt our country. His counterpart in the Ministry of Defense, Aden Duale, reiterated the government will not relent in dealing with banditry in the 6 counties described as disturbed and dangerous.
We will invest in the best of our special teams to deal with banditry and to deal with terrorism. We are going to flush out every bandit, every criminal from every gorge, every forest, every cave, every ravine, every escarpment, so long as it is within the soil of this country. The directive has however rubbed area residents the wrong way, who say they have nowhere to go.
Wale watoto wadogo ambao wanaishi na kwa Moru, unataka kuniambia mimi hawa watoto wadogo na wamama, very innocent people, where will they go?
Lakini sasa wakati unaambia watu toka na hakuna chakula yote umewaandalia, hakuna mahali popote umewaandalia mahali pa kwenda kulala. Kaa ukijua wale watu wanahitaji malazi, kaa ukijua watu wanahitaji kukula na kunywa na kuvaa.
Sasa sisi kutoka na Peimoru tukuje nini Katilu. Next tutaambiwa kutoka Katilu tukuje Lokcher. Alafu kutoka Lokcher tukuje hapa. Sasa tutaenda wapi?
The Ministry of Interior in a statement has revealed that in the last 7 months over 135 innocent Kenyans including 20 security officers had been killed. During the same period, dozens of schools have been closed, thousands of families displaced and public amenities and infrastructure destroyed by these criminal gangs. Moige William, TV 47.
And just hours after Interior Cabinet Secretary C.S. Kithure Kindiki ordered residents living in 27 bandit-prone regions to vacate, one person has been shot dead and many more injured after suspected bandits attacked Lower Sambiri in Marquette East before driving away over 60 heads of cattle. Elsewhere, 6 people have been admitted in Lodwar Hospital after being attacked by bandits.
The directive by Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki for residents in bandit-prone areas to vacate seems to have not been taken seriously as bandits continue to attack residents in the prone regions. Just this morning, in Lower Sambiri, Marquette East, one person has been shot dead after an attack by bandits, leaving a National Police Reservist nursing gunshot wounds before diving away with 60 herds of cattle. The victim, identified as Elisha Mutanga, a freshly animal health graduate, was shot on the thigh but succumbed to gunshot wounds as he was being attended to in hospital, whereas David Murkomen, who is a National Police Reservist, is being treated at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret after he sustained gunshots in the leg.
Leo tumepoteza ng'ombe kadhaa zaidi ya 100 kwa sababu ya bandit. Na tunaambiwa operation is on.
The case is not different in Lodwar, where 6 people are nursing serious injuries and have been admitted at the Lodwar Referral Hospital after being attacked and shot yesterday by suspected bandits believed to be from the neighboring West Pokot County in Longoron area in South Turkana. According to the casualties, they were attacked by bandits around 11 in the morning when they were taking their livestock for grazing, where one of them was shot dead, leaving them with serious injuries.
Ndio sasa vile mimi niliona sasa nikakimbia. Wakati sasa kung'ang'ana kukimbia nikasikia sasa marisasi ikilia. Nikasikia mkono ya kishoto sasa ikienda mbele hivi. Si ameniua.
The Deputy Director of the Lodwar Referral Hospital, Kidalio Ekiru, says the injured suffered serious injuries and are currently receiving treatment, while one is expected to be sent to the Eldoret Referral Hospital for further investigations.
We still have 2 others, one with a fracture left upper arm. He's on a back slab. We hope to keep him in the ward for another 2 or 3 days and then discharge him back home. The other guy had also gunshot wounds on the left upper arm. He had soft tissue injuries, which we did surgical toilet yesterday. He's doing well. He's on antibiotics, analgesics, and then daily dressing of the wound.
Norbert Oduor, TV 47.
Now, Azimio leaders led by Raila Odinga on Saturday attended a church service at Tononoka Shalom Miracle Church, Mombasa, ahead of a protest rally at Caltex grounds in Likoni, meant to push the government to address key, among other things, the lowering of the high cost of living. Chichi Josephine tells us more.
The leaders led by Azimio leader Raila Odinga held a rally at Caltex ground in Likoni after the church service at Tononoka Shalom Miracle Church in Mombasa County, where Odinga insisted that they will continue with their call for mass action across the country.
Tumesema sasa hii kipindi ya pili, awamu ya pili sasa, yale inaanza sasa. Wakenya utafanya maandamano. Nataka hapa Mombasa maandamano ifanyike kila mahali, na maandamano ya amani. Sisi hatutaki kuharibu mali ya mtu yoyote.
Martha Karua, who was among a few leaders accompanying Odinga, said it is the responsibility of every Kenyan to fight for their right to live decent lives, sentiments echoed by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka.
Ende tukaulize haki yetu. Na mimi nataka kila mtu anielewe. Hii si vita ya kiongozi wetu Raila Amolo Odinga. Hii si vita ya Azimio. Hii ni vita ya kila mwananchi.
Ate wamefix uchumi. They have fixed the economy of Kenya. Wamefix kwa akili yao ama ni kusaidia wananchi? Ndio nasema watu lazima jamii hawaelewi, wamechanganyikiwa. Kwa hivyo Wakenya watafanya maandamano.
Mombasa Governor Abdul Swamad Sharif Nasser said that the government should focus on the cartels involved in selling of drugs in the region.
Hapa Mombasa tuna tatizo la madawa ya kulevya. We are now demanding you muende mkawashike wale wenye kufanya hii kazi ya madawa ya kulevya katika mji huu.
The ongoing nationwide mass action came after President William Ruto gave Odinga a wide berth after he issued him a 14-day ultimatum to address the issue of high cost of living, among others. Leaders accompanying Raila were NARC leader Martha Karua, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, Embakasi East Member of Parliament Babu Owino, among other leaders.
Tuko na mjumbe anaitwa Fatuma Masito.
The Azimio Brigade will take their anti-government campaign to Mtwapa, Kilifi County on Monday.
Bana amuite.
Chichi Josephine, TV47.
And in the same breath, days after Azimio One Kenya leader Raila Odinga issued a directive to his supporters concerning the start of the mass action, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has urged President William Ruto not to fall into the trap of a truce. At the same time, Ruto has rubbished claims of unfair selection of IEBC panel.
President William Ruto has told off Azimio leader Raila Odinga for claiming that there was unfair selection of IEBC panel, saying that the law on the constitution of IEBC will not be bent to suit his demands. Defending his actions, Ruto said the constitution was clear on the process to be used in the formation of the Electoral Commission, which he said he has fully adhered to it. On March 9th, Odinga declared the start of countrywide mass action as part of putting pressure on President William Ruto to yield to their demands on the cost of living, IEBC selection panel, among other reasons.
Wale watu wote ambao wamechaguliwa katika hiyo kamati ambayo itachagua IEBC ilichaguliwa kulingana na sheria na katiba ya Kenya. Wale wananiambia niwache kufuata sheria na niwache kufuata katiba, ati nifuate mambo yao ya ubinafsi ile wanataka ambayo haiko katika sheria, jameni, hiyo sitafanya. I'm sorry.
Meanwhile, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has maintained his hardline stance, saying Azimio leader Raila Odinga should not expect a slice in the Kenya Kwanza administration. Gachagua also pleaded with the President William Ruto not to accept any negotiation with the opposition leaders, saying that Raila did not take part in forming the government and should not be given any seat despite the alleged arm twisting.
Wakati tulikuwa tunasema huyu mtu ni mtu ya kitendawili, mtu ya kung'oa reli, mtu ya maandamano. Sasa si hapo hapo. Kwani tulikuwa tunasema uongo? Si hapo kwa maandamano sahihi.
Wewe mzee ya maandamano, piga kelele kutoka asubuhi mpaka jioni. Na ujue hata ukipiga kelele mambo ya handshake hakuna.
Mambo ambayo ni ya kurudi nyuma, akawasumbua marais waliopita, mpaka sasa bado yuko katika ile taratibu ya kujaribu kuleta maandamano ambayo hayana msingi na hayana mwelekeo.
So when you say tufanye boycott, unataka kuambia sisi kwamba hao wa Kenya ambao unaongoza hawataki kazi, wasilipe kodi na wasifanye vitu vingine mingi ambayo inaletwa into industry so that you can be able to get nusu mkate. Your Excellency, we are behind you and we know you very well.
And former Meru Governor Kiraitu Murungi has reiterated his support towards President William Ruto, delinking his support from the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition.
Mimi 100% niko nyuma ya President William Ruto.
Florali Mukit, TV47.
Now, many National Congress leaders from Western region have slammed UDA Party Secretary General Cleophas Malala over his efforts to fold Kenya Kwanza affiliate parties and join UDA party, terming it as returning the country to one-party system. Speaking after the meeting, which was held in Bungoma town, the leaders have urged residents, and that is President William Ruto, to intervene and stop the process, stating that the process will make Kenya Kwanza government to fall.
A few days after former Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala was installed as the Secretary General of UDA party, sparks of rebellion have begun cropping up within the Kenya Kwanza circles over the plot to create one political party. Today, ANC Western Region leaders speaking after meeting in Bungoma town slammed Malala over his calls of folding Kenya Kwanza parties and join UDA, saying that they are steady and ready to fight for the country's democracy.
Chama chetu cha ANC kiko imara na hivi karibuni tunaenda kuroll out recruitment drive ya wanachama wangoje kupitia katika ofisi zetu za branch na ofisi zetu za sub branches.
Tumempea platform ndio UDA imemuona. We want to tell him and caution him that we are not folding ANC now, we will not fold ANC in the future, and we have never thought of folding ANC.
ANC imeuzwa. Hakuna kitu kama hiyo. Sisi wa mama tumekataa. Wa mama tumekataa.
Tulitaka tusaidiane na tupate hiki kitu, tupate uongozi wa serikali ya Kenya. Sio vyema mkiona mwenzaka amekuja kusaidia kazi na mmewin, mnataka sasa kumdhalalisha na kumharibu na kumvunja.
The leaders have called upon President William Ruto to intervene and stop condoning such behavior that they may risk the performance of the government.
Ukikubali na kuruhusu njia za mkato, njia za kupotosha wengine, njia za kukatana miguu katika hii serikali itaanguka. And Kenyans have options because we have 45 million Kenyans who can be president.
Behind the change in ANC party leadership, they insist there is a court ruling that allows public servants to engage in politics, daring leaders who are threatening Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi of not engaging in politics.
Musalia Mudavadi must not be gagged because he is serving government. He has his right, he has his own right to belong to a political party, na sisi kama wafuasi wake pia tuna haki.
Gakuru asijaribu kukudanganya tinyesiji wa chama. Tuko na mama mmoja anaitwa Beatrice Adagala.
Tunaenda kuwa hapo ndani ya serikali kwa miaka 20 ijayo, kwa sababu tunajua kwamba baada ya Mheshimiwa Ruto kumaliza, yule atakayekuwa rais wa kufuata atakuwa Mheshimiwa Wycliffe Musalia Mudavadi.
They have however condemned Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga on the ongoing demonstration in the country, urging Western residents to ignore his calls.
He has another extra job, an alternative job, and we know it. We know you're on the NGO's payroll. Anytime there are protests, relief and unrest in Kenya and clashes, you're a very happy man.
Tumesikia wito wa Mheshimiwa Raila kwamba watu wasikule mayai, lakini sisi tutakula hiyo mayai sana.
Wanji Sostin, TV47, Bungoma.
Now, Lawrence Njuguna, commonly known as DJ Fatso, who is a person of interest in the mysterious death of 23-year-old Jeff Ngugi Mwathi, has distanced himself from this tragic event, saying there's no way he could have done it, as he was the first to report Mwathi as missing. However, according to the officer in charge of the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCIO in Kasarani, Jimmy Kimaru, the incident was first reported by the security firm manning the building where DJ Fatso lives.
As detectives pieced together what transpired at dawn on the 22nd of February at the Redwood Apartments in Kasarani, Lawrence Njuguna, the person of interest in the death of interior designer Jeff Mwathi, has broken his silence, saying he has nothing to do with the tragic turn of events.
Later, coming back after a few hours, finding that Jeff is not in the house and the others are there, I am the one who actually went with them to the police station to report that Jeff is missing.
Speaking to the press in Nairobi, Njuguna has further stated that he has tried to reach out to the family of the late with no avail.
I've known Jeff for 2 years. He was selling shoes to me, and I've bought like so many pairs of shoes from Jeff since 2021. And then all I can say is that he could tell me once I used to go to his shop, the way you see these interiors, it's me who've made these.
The legal team representing DJ Fatso, led by senior counsel Ndego Njiru, has noted that they will cooperate with the DCI detectives to seek justice for the 23-year-old.
From there, he has been cooperating. We have visited the police stations severally. We have given all the accounts of what we know or he knows about the incidents.
and the matter is under active investigations.
Friday, DCI detectives visited this 12-story residential apartments building where 23-year-old Mwathi is said to have met his death on the 22nd of February this year. Mwathi is said to have fallen from a house at the 10th floor rented by DJ Fatso. Detectives reconstructed the scene, though it remains unclear where Mwathi fell from, with CCTV cameras only capturing the point of impact. It is reported that DJ Fatso had contracted Mwathi for an interior design job that was supposed to begin in the morning after the night of merrymaking.
Mheshimiwa, we are on, and yes, the conversation begins at that very point because then, sometimes we have moments with the Waheshimiwas and those ones that are in government for that matter. And from the peripheries, you just want to understand what really is happening. And so the reasoning aspect to all this is very, very necessary and important. And so we will be having the gentlemen, join us for this very important conversation as we just ask ourselves where we stand as a people, not in isolation as Mheshimiwa would advise. Let us look at these things, across and understand what is happening globally and how the same is equally affecting us. And so it's at this very point that I get to introduce the gentleman that will take us through this very conversation or help us steer the conversations in the country. There's so much to discuss. First of all, we start off by looking at the high cost of living. That's exactly what we'll be discussing, as we get to understand whether we are headed to the right direction from that report that comes from the government economic brains, as well as we'll be looking at the political situation in the country, the mass actions or the rallies that are being held across by Azimio One Kenya, whether indeed these ones are helpful for us to get answers to the difficult times that we have. Definitely the formation of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, that is crucial for us to ever imagine of having a proper election, and therefore at this point it's important that we allude to the same, and not forgetting this that is playing out in the Kenya Kwanza government, where there's that desire by the United Democratic Alliance to have a majority of the parties therein fold theirs and join UDA for them to form a bigger platform or a bigger party. Just what does this mean? And are those ones that sit in UDA or Kenya Kwanza as other parties away from UDA happy and comfortable that this is the way to go? These are the key things that we'll be looking at. We ask you to be part and parcel of the conversation. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47KE across all the social media platforms, and we'll be sampling some of these comments that you send us as we continue. In studio with me, Honorable Wahome Wamatinga, Senator Nyeri County. Thank you so much, Senator, for creating time to be with us, as well as Honorable Member of County Assembly of Kileleshwa, that is Honorable Robert Alai. Thank you so much, Robert, for creating time to be with us. Shortly, we'll be looping in Mheshimiwa Martin Wanyonyi, Member of Parliament of Webuye, for these candid conversations. And so the papers as well speak to these matters that we are speaking to this morning. And so we'll start off by looking at some of them that have been captured. That Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki will manage this situation of the bandit, that it will be a different affair, contrary to what we have witnessed over the years. The Kapedo Triangle, the difficulties across the different counties that have this banditry menace. Is this the government that will get us off from this, Mheshimiwa?
Thank you very much, Linda. And let me start by saying good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me around to be here to have a conversation around the issues that have been quite topical in this country. Yes, the issue of bandit has been quite for a long time. We remember since independence, an issue that has been a thorn in the flesh of the Kenyans. We know that mainly most of these bandits, so to say, starting with the infamous Chief of All, has always been perpetrated by people who try to advance their own political interests. However, there's been a lack of political goodwill to deal with them exhaustively. And I think it is a high time right now the Kenyans came into terms with the fact that we cannot live in a country where a part of it is controlled by bandits. We know caste rustling has actually been engineered by some people who benefit from it. And it's a high time that we ask ourselves, when livestock are stolen and taken away, where do they end up? We remember some times back that we had a story that it actually ends up in some of the butcheries in the country. And I think dealing with it will start by curtailing the movement of these cartels who are perpetuated. However, we must also accept the fact that the scarcity of resources in some of these regions, like water, has also fueled some of these conflicts. We know that the last regime did attempt to initiate 7 peace dams. 2 of them were completed, 5 of them are still outstanding. This is one of the solutions. However, the government must also be determined and have the political goodwill, without wanting to get favor from the people, the local politicians, deal with this matter exhaustively. We do remember that there was in Sabotia, there was the militia group that was dealt with by the KDF, and they ceased to be. And I think that would also be the solution in this case, to deploy a KDF, that has happened, and then they are dealt with that decisiveness that they'll never again come into being.
All right, so Honorable Alai, that this will be the ultimate solution, that this government will be the government to root out these banditry cases, that Kithure Kindiki, Professor, will be the person to do this. Imagine the tough talking, Matiang'i could not manage this, the Kaiseris of this world could not manage this. And you ask yourself, is this the reason why we keep saying that these ones are fueled by politicians?
It's definitely fueled by politicians. Maintaining such a very complex security situation is very expensive. The supply of the guns, gathering intelligence, that life cycle of raiding each other, moving the young boys or the men here and there to go and raid one community or within themselves. It is not very cheap. So it must be sustained by people from very high up there. I think that we need to go for the head. And also, when you have crushed the banditry, it is now an income generating means for these communities.
Right.
How do we deal with the root causes? How do we sustain this community? How do you give them alternatives? How do you tell them that you can get money or you can get livelihood from this trade and not this trade? Because if you go and crush the banditry, but you left the young men with no alternative income generating means, then they're going to go back to something else.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll get to terrorism, they'll get into very weird ways, because these people are skilled. Some of them are better skilled in handling those guns than some of the security police officers. So I think the government need to deal with the root causes. It's very good to see how the government has dealt with terrorism to an extent, try to make sure that the young people are, the indoctrination into terrorism is reversed from the root causes, their mental state and so on. But now we need to deal with banditry the way we dealt with terrorism. It is not only the hard security operations, but also bringing the psychologists, bringing trainers, guidance and counseling. Now bring in people who are offering the means. Tell them that you can make money from this. Can we do this agriculture and so on. So I think, but we need to go for the big guys. We need to go for the politicians, the MPs, the senators, the MCAs, the governors who are fueling these. We need to go for them, the businessmen, the clergymen. It was very impressive to see for the first time, at least the cabinet secretary mentioning that even we have the clergy who are giving them the spiritual guidance, because you don't expect these people to live in isolation. And the Marakwet, Samburu, Baringo ones are the extreme. We have the non-extreme ones in Kopere, in Nyakach, in the border between the Kalenjin and the Kisis. We have the small raids here and there.
Yeah.
We need to go for the root cause, and at least I'm hopeful that for the first time the government might be able to address this.
All right, so at least there's some light at the end of the tunnel. We can cross fingers. We hope so,
and it is not something you wish that the government and you hope that they fail.
They fail,
It is something we wish they crash, because it is destroying the picture people paint out of the country outside there.
I mean, is it necessary to go to extents? And I was watching on TV how some, women are crying and they're saying, now you're telling us to exit this space and go to a different destination. This is the only space that we know. How do we go and figure out ourselves in the name of trying to make sure that, you root out these bandits, the hiding places and the hideouts? This is the areas. Does it really have to go to such extent?
Well, in war, and any conflict is kind of a war, these people the bandits have decided to use the women and children as their shield. This is a divisionary tactic that they're employing. And to get to the root of it, we must first of all agree and admit that this is a crisis that needs to be sorted. And so long as we allow So long as we allow them to use women and children as their shield, then there is no way we are going to succeed in this intervention. Therefore, we must call it the way it is. We must say that children and women cannot be used, and if the only way to protect them is to move them so that we can deal exhaustively, conclusively with the bandits, then they must move. However, I must also admit that it may sound a bit inhuman to say that there comes a time that when you have to use the force that's required, and this is a time when you have to look at if the displacement, temporary displacement of women and children will bring a long-lasting solution, so be it. But we cannot look at it and say women and children are suffering and therefore let this cycle continue. We must bring it to a break. And as my colleague has said here, what has been lacking in the first regimes is the political goodwill to deal with this matter. We remember the Sabotia, and I'm happy that Mheshimiwa Nyonyi is here. There was a time that they actually controlled the Mount Elgon area, and they were dealt with decisively. And as you've said about Nakaisali, about Matiang'i, it is not the personality, it is actually a whole cycle of goodwill in the political circle. If you could be very, very decisive like Matiang'i was, however, if you do not have political support and political goodwill, then you're not going to succeed. What Kindiki Kithure, as much as he's a soft-spoken interior CS, he has the political goodwill, and this is what it will take him to succeed. If you have the courage to name the culprits, some of them are high-ranking government officials, the clergy, the politicians. If you have the courage to name them and to point them out, then he's going to smoke them out. As Honorable Alai has said, this is a very expensive undertaking, even for the bandits, where they get the guns from the bullets. Some of the guns they have are even more sophisticated than the ones we have with our military personnel. And these they don't collect on the bushes, they buy them, somebody buys for them. If you look at their level of education, you might say that they do not understand the dynamics of international market in weaponry, but somebody does it for them. The question is, who does it for them? If we cut off the rank of those who supply them with the weapons, then we'll have won the war. And that is exactly what Kindiki is going for, those who actually supply them. And once we do that, remove women and children as their shield, and then we deal with them decisively, we'll have won the battle forever. However, I want also to add, solution must also be gotten into giving them a way of livelihood. See, these people are dealing with thousands of cattle, which we know that the beef market is quite a lucrative business. If they are given access to this market, they'll have a way of income. If they're given access to water, including now the construction of the dams, irrigation schemes, they are going to change. We remember, like, there was a time in Kainuk, that is the boundary of Pokot and Turkana. There used to be a lot of banditry activities. However, after the irrigation scheme was started in Katilu, there was quite peaceful coexistence. This is what we need to do.
And these social amenities, Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for creating time. Martin Wanyonyi, Member of Parliament, it's good to have you this morning as you join us in this conversation and as we try and pick it up from what the two Mheshimiwas speak. It is one thing to say that, the having of social amenities, good ones for that matter, and making sure that these people are serviced with the necessary, amenities that they require, and as well as activities, let them be engaged, is one thing to say, and it's a beautiful thing to say. But most of the times you realize that there's a lot of animosity that sits down there on the ground, such that even setting up of structures, schools, setting up of these dams, like you rightfully put it, becomes a problem. And I have personally had a conversation with the security forces or the officers that work down there. They will tell you that you'll see, even donors coming on board and they set up structures, or they begin to set up school structures before they are halfway done. The very same, people from these regions are the very same ones who see these, structures go down. So the animosity therein is perhaps one that becomes difficult to manage. What will it take for us to get them to soften their hearts for this?
Thank you so much, Linda. I'm happy to be back again.
Thank you.
Now with my friend, my MC here. And my senator here. I think really I want to say this, that previous government, I think we have a history. And we have demonstrated that it's indeed possible to root out these militias. The previous government has demonstrated that we can be able to do away with support land defense forces. Today, Mount Elgon is safe. Mount Elgon is is secure. And so that I think what is even happening now and what has been lacking previously is the political goodwill. You remember it is Kwame Nkrumah who said that seek first the political kingdom and everything else will be done unto you. For me, for the first time, this political goodwill. And so I'm so sure if we continue the way we are going with the political goodwill, with the participation of the people, with the involvement of the people, then the environment will be so conducive for us to be able to set up the social amenities that Mheshimiwa Sande is talking about. And secondly, of course, one other problem that has been there is government making commitments and not really fulfilling them. If we are saying that now we don't want you guys to go to the route of cattle rustling, these are the alternative avenues that we are giving you. We must be able to walk that talk. And that's why I think the rest of us in government, we're insisting that we must be able to deliberately have a budget to be able to support these people, set up dams, provide them with alternative way of taking care of the animals, because the biggest issue there is not even anything else, just land. Everybody wants to have a piece of the land to be able to take care of his animals, which is not there. And so for me, we must be able to talk that talk. And I'm happy that even when I listened to Rigiji yesterday, is committed and the government is committed to ensure that really they are able to solve this matter once and for all. And the rest of us in Parliament, we will be able to push for that so that at least we can have once and for all a solution
to this
problem.
Let's close this one on this very note, Honorable Alai. Do you suppose it's important that we interrogate devolution at that level and see whether indeed it is doing anything tangible for those people?
Yeah, we need to interrogate it, and and this is why I think that the involvement of the national government is very critical. But the county governments need to get greatly involved, because these are young people and the MCAs know them better, the MPs know them better, and they need to interrogate and understand, is this where they want to move the country? I am very worried when we think of the construction jobs, the dam construction and so on jobs, but we need to provide a very sustainable means of sustaining these livelihoods of the people in banditry-prone areas. Remember, we are supplying, we can build a oil pipeline from Mombasa to South Sudan.
Yeah.
But you cannot build a water supply mechanism to irrigate the northern section of this country, the Asal areas. And it is very unfortunate thing, especially around Turkana. Turkana has a freshwater lake there. Why don't we just use the lake there to irrigate the land, to ensure that the people there are well supplied with enough water for drinking and also for their own animals and irrigation and the planting, the food crops they're trying to generate. It is very unfortunate that we live in this. And also there's an age which is passing this community, the information age. The government built a very critical infrastructure in this country called the NOFB, National Fiber Optic Backbone. This NOFB was supposed to open up the country. It was supposed to plug in the schools, the churches, the public amenities around the country, and ensure that these young people can learn the various skills and even generate income. There's a young man who built the e-citizen platform, and he generates a lot of income there. He was able to build a platform where he can earn money from the transactions Kenyans are making there, not charging government a lot of money through the tenders. And these are the platforms you need to see, come to life through these young people, not fighting a very archaic war, with guns, killing each other, maiming their own mothers and sisters and children. It is very unfortunate. I wish that we as a county, and also, sometimes I think that in the counties also we need to have an exchange program. We need to have the people in Turkana, few MCAs, come and spend 2 or 3 months in Nairobi and live with us. We need to take a few from Nairobi, go to Turkana, you see, spend 2-3 months there, learn, try to open up the eyes of these young people.
Yeah.
What kind of laws, bills, regulations they can bring in place, what kind of opportunities they can bring in place. You know, if we build more digital innovation centers, the digital villages which the government was trying to put in place, because there's a low-hanging fruit for us. Before you think of a massive infrastructure, the internet is everywhere in this country. Let's use it to build young coders. You tell them how to build their own skills, the creative skills in this country, and tell them how to earn, the next flacos and so on, how they can earn millions online, how they can, explore their artistic skills. These opportunities are passing these young people who still believe that they have to be supplied with guns and live in an age where they don't have to know anything else but just to kill each other day and night. It is very unfortunate. I wish that this country would open up its eyes to the opportunities we have.
All right, and that's what we're looking forward to, developing story. We'll give you updates on the same. Remember, today is the deadline, or perhaps the very actual day that the CS for Interior says, everybody should have exited this space so that they root out all these banditry hideouts. We're looking forward to see what plays out, and we are positive that it will be a different thing. Honorable Omatinga, I made a phone call to you, was it on Thursday, to request you to join us on set, yeah?
Yes.
Right after I was watching you, I was following up on the proceedings of, your committee, and immediately at lunch hour, I said, let me try and make a phone call. I think they are on break. And somebody this morning is watching and actually sends this message. It says, or she says, not left their name. Hi Linda, Salimia Mhesh, tulikuwa na yeye NVS weekend and went to Kengen well. Mwambie aguzie stories of power also, because he's chair in Energy Senate. Good day to us all. What is happening?
Thank you very much, Linda. Let's first of all face it the way it is. We know that we are facing a situation that we haven't faced for the last 40 years. The drought that we've been facing has dropped the levels of the water in the dams. In fact, we have the Seven Forks Dam. They are now at 56 centimeters water level left. And therefore, as the situation is, we've been relying on a lot of hydroelectricity in this country. That's what has been holding the cost of power at a constant level. However, with reduced dam levels and river levels, we would expect that the cost of power becomes very, very unstable, because we have to use thermal generators, thermal power, and thermal are actually fired using diesel. Diesel is an imported commodity. We know we have another big problem in the world, that there is a shortage of dollars, and therefore we are seeing a situation whereby the cost of fuel is escalating in the world platform. As a result, we try to look at a situation in Kenya and say, yeah, we are blessed, we can use thermal, we can use wind, we can use geothermal. We realize that Kenya has the potential, actually the biggest in the world, of getting about 10,000 megawatts. Our demand in a country is about half of that. Therefore, if we exploit the opportunities of using geothermal, we would actually bring the cost of electricity down by about 30–40%. However, we know geothermal is quite an expensive exploration, because a single borehole goes for about 600 million, and that produces between 5 and 30 megawatts. However, we know that the area that now we are dealing with, Olkaria, is almost exhausted, and we need to look for other areas. We know that we have potentially quite a number of areas we can explore. The Kengen have already forwarded the concession requirement to the Treasury, and we'll be trying to meet the CS Treasury to try and see whether we can fast track that, because a long-term solution would be to go geothermal. Solar energy is cheaper, however, quite unreliable, because you will have it during the day. Geothermal, you can have it at 24/7, and if we are looking at lowering the cost of energy, we must look at a long-term solution, and to us that looks like geothermal. The technology that is being applied right now, I must give it to the Kengen, they are actually quite advanced right now. That we call it renewable, because they are able to get the power from the steam, and then recharge the water back into the ground, and then can use it again. This is a technology where we have not yet been matched by any other country in the world, and it is something that if we exploit it to the fullest, then we will be able to see in the next couple of years cost of power coming down maybe by 30–40%, and for that matter it will be sustainable. We will be having a 24/7, so that we do not rely wholly on hydro, which is dependent on the climatical condition. And we know now, on the face of the climate change, we know that the water levels across the world are reducing, and this would mean that hydro will become at some point unreliable. And the commitment of this government to go green then also compels us to start looking at these long-term alternatives. That is what we've been doing the last 1 week. We'll be having a series of meeting this week, so that we can agree because we have budgetary shortages, is it possible for us to look for private-public partnership between Kenya and the government of Kenya and other investors who would want to go green? We know that there is a topic in the world about carbon credit. There are investors out there who would want to come and invest in the green energy because they are using coal. Talk about Germany, talk about the coming countries in Europe. And I think we give a good alternative for them to offset their carbon credits with us by investing in geothermal. These are possibilities that we're looking. It's a high-level discussion it's taking place. And I think that if we push it forward and achieve what we want, we would be able to have lowered the cost of energy by about 30-40%.
All right, Mheshimiwa, I'm glad that you listened to the Deputy President yesterday, and he also spoke to the power issue. Says, well, the times are difficult, and Mheshimiwa here alludes to the fact that the high-level conversations ongoing as pertaining to the same power, like fuel, is at the heart of every activity in the nation. Do you have this essence of hope when you hear them speak and allude to this and say that, well, largely they are focused on making sure that there's that reduction? Is it realistic listening to some of the proposals and to some of the policies that are being brought on board?
Yeah, I think all of us must accept that we are living in a very, very different time, very difficult moment, and it's not a Kenyan problem. Is a world problem. And so as much as a government, we are trying whatever we can, putting in every effort that we can. The times themselves are dictating different. And that's why really for me, and the onset, we must say that there's hope. But of course, whatever plans we are having may not be able to fix the issues that are bedeviling in this country as a matter of urgency for now. And so the issue that Mheshimiwa Senator has alluded to, I think because of the times that we are living in, we must be able now to go beyond using the normal ways of producing power. For a very long time, we've relied on solar power and these other power. But I think really for me, we must now be able to be innovative, to be creative, so that we can now be able to have power that is sustainable. That's why I agree with Mheshimiwa here that we must really go geothermal, which is a bit expensive, but anything good in this world is expensive. Is expensive. Nothing good is cheap. If we want to really get power that's sustainable, we must be able to invest in it and heavily invest in it. So I think really, I agree that as a government, we must really go out of our way and have an alternative way of producing power based on the environment that we are facing now. The climate has changed. There's a drought that has never been seen since the inception of this country. So I think really we support the president, and I also want to request the country that we support this gun, because you see, many of the things that we are facing now, the shortage of power, the drought, and everything else did not really come because William Ruto is the president. These things have been with us, and they cannot be solved within a very short time. We need time. We need both policy and legislative interventions, which again, both Mheshimiwas will tell you that having a policy or a legislative intervention is a process. It's not an event, and so which then we must as a country be patient a bit as the rest of us in Parliament, put in place the necessary legislative interventions so that then the government can be able to implement. So I think really agree that there's hope, but again, for us to realize and fulfill that particular hope, it requires all of us to work together.
All right. Should we come to a point of, say, let's make peace with this, Honorable Alai, and say that, you know, the government came with lots of promises, but now that they're in, they realize that it's not easier said, you know. And that there are a lot of difficulties globally. There are a lot of difficulties that were left with the previous regime, and therefore it is necessary for them to give them time, or for us to give them time, because clearly that is what they have been speaking to. And as well, in as much as we would want to push them so hard, there are only certain extremes that they can go to. Do we make peace with this, statement that, what, you might need to give us time, that, times are tough, that this is the hardest drought that we are facing in 40 years, and therefore let us be patient?
I think what the president needs to do is that he needs to have his own big four. And if he focuses on the big four, because what he's trying to do is now he's trying to focus everywhere. He's trying to build affordable housing. I don't think it's an urgent thing. It's a critical area, but it's not urgent. He needs to address the urgent areas, the health, the power, and so on. If he doesn't focus on that, it is going to bring a big challenge. The second thing is that the government is not in sync. The government is talking from both sides. Everybody's trying to give opinion, and everybody's trying to act like he's above the boss. The advisor is trying to look like he's above the CS. Some of the, you see the economists online trying to tell you that we need more IPPs. They're trying to tell you that the cost of power will not go down. If you are an investor who's trying to come into this country and you're seeing such pronouncements, and you're seeing that Kenya is not going to have cheap power soon, what would you do? You'll not bring money into this country.
But the deputy president speaks to that and says that, these ones are advisors and they're not speaking in capacity as the government. So
if you're an investor who is in South Africa or is in London today and wants to come to Kenya, and you have followed, the only thing you follow is social media, you don't know there's a channel called KBC where the deputy president was going to speak in, and you are going to make your decision based on an economist, international economist you have known for long. And it is going to take a very long time for the truth to catch up with the lies. If the deputy president is saying that these people don't speak for the government, can they just think we are one team? Can we say the same thing? There are some things, even if you believe they're true, must you say them? Because they have a ripple effect on the whole ecosystem. So I think the government is trying to do a lot of things. I wish that they synchronize their actions and also they focus on the key areas. In this newspaper, when you open it, you see in a page, I think on HIV/AIDS, this page 8 of Daily Nation today.
Daily Nation page 8.
10 billion funding gap hindering HIV fights. And if you read on that newspaper, the fight against HIV in this country, the budget is only 25 billion. Why should foreigners be funding the fight against HIV, which is just 25 billion in this country?
5.4, yeah.
Why should, when you have a 3 trillion, 4 trillion economy, why should we depend? Why should we even allow this? This is an area which you say that you are not going to fund this. We are going to look for something else you guys fund for us. But can you not fund this? Can you not fund the critical areas, which is life and death for us? So I think the government needs to put up its act together. The government needs to focus on the key areas. The government needs to know the priority areas and what is going to lower the cost of living in the long run. If the government acts like it grapples in the dark, it is going to, the good thing is that it's going to give us more fodder and we might be able to replace them sooner than they.
When you're saying us, you mean Azimio.
Yes. Let me first say that I actually do disagree with Honorable Rai. In an economic system, you cannot take one approach. We have this closed ecosystem that has several components in it. The construction of housing, let me start with that one. It is not just about having housing, it's about construction of housing and creating employment in short term. In long term, it's how you'll have the benefit of having the houses. If you look at the world index, Kenya has only about 38,000 as opposed to 1.8 million housing mortgages that's supposed to be according to the level of our economy. Therefore, we have a very huge gap that we can bridge. Not to mention that once we start creating these houses, we do not only create employment and give people opportunity, there is a whole mechanism, microeconomic system that we get to activate. When you talk about now the AIDS, the 10 billion, it's not just about the 10 billion. We are talking about the SDGs. These are the Millennium Goals, or that was set by international community, so that we can be, as a global village, be able to achieve. And for us to be able to achieve that, it is not just about addressing the issue of HIV/AIDS. We are talking about environmental conservation. We are talking about improving the health standards, about the education. It's a whole 18 point agenda that we are trying to achieve globally. And therefore, if you look at it in isolation, talk about HIV/AIDS, that is the SDG number 3, you'd be talking about one, but we have a whole 17 of them. And this is not just for the Kenya alone, it is for the whole world. We are saying, for us to be able to march forward, for us to have a comparable standard of living, for us to be able to be in the same platform, we must move the world towards this direction. And therefore, there are countries that are more advantaged, like the Western countries, they have more resources, but those are the countries that does a lot in pollution. Therefore, we say, because you are the polluters, give us a bit of this money so that we can be able to elevate our health standards. At the same time, we are trying to conserve our forests so that we can absorb some of the carbon that you're emitting into the environment. So it is actually a closed ecosystem where the whole world must work in tandem. You cannot look at it in isolation. About the government of the Kenya government having no agenda, we actually do have agenda. And it is not a 4-point agenda, but it is agenda that involves about the improving the welfare of the common mwananchi, of the hustler nation. If you look at the plan, that is our manifesto, we are talking about empowering people, we are talking about improving the standards of living. But we cannot do that when we have 30-40% of people in lobby living in informal settlements. We must uplift and give them what you'd call affordable housing, so that we'll have met one of the agendas that was set in the World Convention. Therefore, it is not something that we treat in isolation, but it is a closed ecosystem where we must look at many things at the same time. That's why we are talking about subsidizing fertilizers so that we can increase our output. That's why we are talking about lowering the cost of electricity so that we can encourage investors. And again, I want to tell Mheshimiwa Lai, investors and serious investors do not go in the social media and look for indicators. They are global market indicators that you look at. They are concessional and policy that you look at, given the out there in the world, and they know the IMF, the World Bank will tell you these are the prospects of a certain country, so that when you go out there and invest, then you'll know the prospect. The problem why we have shortage of dollars today is because the Americans have decided to hold their dollar, raise the interest, so that the prospect of invested in their home economy becomes more encouraging than going outside. And these are not gotten in the social media. No, they are gotten from the World Bank, from IMF. They are indicators that are all over that you can lead from.
Right. And before I come to you, Honorable Lai, on the question of them picking their big four, we did not see much with the big four agenda of the president, the former president. What makes you think it would work? But before then, Honorable Wanyonyi, don't you think it's time that you call Azimio on the table? Because they seem to be having solutions, and that's why they say within no time they would get government and perhaps turn things upside down. Perhaps they could be having some magical ways to address the issues that we're having today. How about you call them on the table and listen to some of these things that they can.
One, I think, thank you, Linda. Linda, Azimio has been in government for the last 5 years.
Has it?
Azimio was in government. Okay. The handshake government was Azimio plus...
UDA too was part of government. I mean...
UDA was only in government for 2 years.
Is it?
The 3 years to the end of the last term, it was Azimio government.
But we kept on paying UDA individuals as
paying,
taxpayer.
There's a difference between paying and being given responsibility.
But if you're not being given this responsibility, why do you
William
continue?
Ruto was president in law, but not in was deputy president in law, but not in fact.
You want to maintain that?
That's the truth.
Okay, and so
that's why saying that we call them on the table, the draft of the constitution did not even envisage opposition. As we speak today, by the way, we only have one government. Even in parliament, Honorable Lai here will tell you he's not opposition. We have majority and minority. If these good ideas that they have, if they have a plan, they have parliament to be able to push for that plan, push for that agenda. So I think really we don't need a formal engagement the way they did with Uhuru Kenyatta for them now to be able to share and help in terms of moving this country forward. We already, the constitution has given us a way of all of us working together through parliament, and through Article 10 public participation, which all of us have a right and responsibility to participate and give our opinion on how we want government programs to run. So I think really your discussion and your prayer that we invite Azimio on the table to have a conversation, really already the Constitution has given that.
Why the excitement? The Constitution is clear on that. Perhaps let's just ask Mheshimiwa here, why the excitement of, bashing the government, even when we understand...
What do you mean by the excitement of bashing the government?
Okay, of challenging the government, if not asking them to...
This government is a caricature of itself. It is so funny. Even if you watch, with all the seriousness you wanted to watch the deputy president yesterday, I think he was debating a lot. But still, on the handshake, I believe that UDA needs the handshake more than we need the handshake.
Yeah.
Because they know that they don't have even 40% of the country. They know for a fact that it will take them a lot. You see what they're trying to do. Even for us in Nairobi, they have tried to buy the Jubilee and the Wiper team for a very long time.
Have they?
They have called, and
I mean, we might need to speak so hard about this ones, because they also say you have tried to send emissaries at night to request.
No. They're so desperate, because, if they were to have a majority in Nairobi, this country would be in far much chaos than they are able to cause now. Because the UDA seems to be very quick. I think the first time the focus is on make quick money and disappear. Then the second, I think they're trying to do what the Jubilee government was, first 5 years, make money, and then second term, then pretend to be working. I wish that they would put their act together. They realize that even acts like trying to constitute the IBC, they would need to involve everybody else. Because
of what importance is a majority, Honorable Alai, if there's no food on the table, if some of these issues that are being raised by Azimio are not addressed, even if you have the majority and the IBC is not well, commissioned, if you have the majority on your side and clearly still the economy is not in the best of shape, how does it help the UDA side?
I think the UDA is interested in control. They're interested in control, the deals, the decisions in the various counties. And Nairobi is very critical for them. That's why there's a very big desperation. The biggest thing they underrated is the determination of the principles in Azimio to hold together. And I wish that, the politics will always be there. The politics of push and pull, trying to outdo each other, will always be there. But I wish that they realize that IBC is a very critical organ to be left to be chosen by a single individual. Even if the law was on your side, if you are a good parent in a home, you will say that some of these decisions, like selling land, or try to involve all the family members, because they would affect this family's unity and cohesion in future. If we don't properly handle IBC case, it might break the country. Because people need, know why Kenya is peaceful? Because people have hope that every 5 years they have the opportunity to change the government. But if the president reconstitutes the IBC panel and does selection of the IBC commissioners the way he's doing now, people will not have hope in elections.
The president says he has done it according to
the law.
And we understand what the law dictates. So how best is he supposed to break the law, go against the law?
Man is not for the law is for man.
Okay.
You see? So this law, we went out of our way and created IPPG. When the law didn't favor us, we changed it and introduced the Prime Minister for a short time. When the law didn't favor us, we went and reviewed the law of this country and brought in the 2010 Constitution. I think sometimes we need not to look at the law. Be a gentleman. Look forward. Have a vision for this country. The problem in this country is that everything we are trying to do is for now and here. We are trying to build a road to use today. We are trying to build a health center to use today. We are trying to reconstitute IBC to use to win election for today. Nobody is thinking of 10, 20 years to come. What will happen to this country? What is the plan?
Gentlemen, yes.
Well, it's actually quite interesting listening to Honorable speak, because I must admit that he actually has what it needs to be a Laira Forward supporter. Why? Numbers don't lie. In Moi's government, Laira fought his way into the government. In Kibaki's government, it is the same. In Uhuru's government, and it is on the record, Uhuru said, Raila is my number one advisor. Therefore, the things that now he's going on the street doing and demanding, he had then the opportunity to change them within the government. We saw the price of unga, Rinda, go to over 200 and something. Yeah. He did not go to the streets. He did not demand, and the MACU, at that time it was over 230 and subsidized at a cost of over 8 billion. Money that was stolen. Give it to the government of Kenya Kwanza. We have unga, the cost of it has not dropped to 120 as we envisaged. However, we are saving the 8 billion that was supposed to be subsidizing the same unga. What Honorable Rai is not saying, so long as it is not Baba, anything else is not light. Why is it then that when we did constitute the previous AIBC, Raila was comfortable with it? What we have done, we've just gone ahead and said, let's try to improve the areas we thought they're green areas. That's exactly what we've done. And with that, they are not comfortable because Baba is not on the table. But there must come a time where we accept that in every 5 years, we have a democratic process that starts with the voting and is concluded at the Supreme Court. And I think Honorable Rai and the Azimio must admit they lost on the ballot, they lost in the Supreme Court. They have to wait for the next 5 years and hope that we perform so badly, and I don't think they admit themselves. And where you see them going on the street is because they've seen, they've interrogated the policies, they've interrogated what's going behind the scenes, and they've realized that if they let the Kenya Kwanza government take off, it is going to be unstoppable. And that is why they are so determined to go on the streets so that they try to stop us. But I can tell you, if you stop at every barking dog, you'll never get to your destination. We let them do, we are going to continue with our work, and we know that we're going to achieve what we promised to the Kenyans. And most importantly, some of these things we know that they only need political goodwill to change. We have some of the best brains in this country. Changing the economical situation of this country requires goodwill. What we know is that this country had been held hostage by cartels, and Honorable Rai knows that. Some of these cartels are the ones financing now the demonstrations so that they can afford to pay the taxes. They can continue enjoying the tax haven in their own country. They can continue and allocating all the tenders to themselves because nobody will question them. And worst of all is that they do that and then they don't pay taxes.
Let's overlook.
We are going against. When banks merge, you make profit, not for Wanjiko, for yourself. And then you go ahead, having the highest authority in this country, and sign a waiver for yourself. Those are the things that we are fighting.
For this money to be in circulation, you need Wanjiko, for sure. There's no question
yes,
about
we
it.
do. Yes, we
I want to believe that the Azimio team or the members of Azimio are Kenyan enough to even, imagine of a country that is functioning.
Well, Linda, it is unfortunate to say these people in Azimio, they are Kenyans, yes, who believe that they must be the ones who are making the decision. These are the few families, actually composed of not more than 9 families in this country, who believe that they own Kenyans and they own Kenya, that they must be the one to be on the decision-making table. What they are finding it very hard to accept is that today it is William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua. And that was, you see Honorable Alai here talk about Rigathi Gachagua, despite the fact that he was able to articulate the problems of this country quite precisely and very well. He cannot take it. And it is not him as a person. The master he serves tells him it has to be Raila and not Rigathi and not Ruto. They cannot accept that anybody outside the dynasty cannot be able to rule this country.
But then again, they
must come into terms with that there are people like Wamatinga and know where they've come from and had before, and right now they're making the decision. And that's why we're so engaged, fighting for the energy to come down, because we want to prove to Kenyans that you do not have to come from a family that's known for you to make a change.
3 minutes before we take a short break. It is true, there could be feeling why is it not us and it is them. But again, like Honorable Lai said, if you continue in the trajectory that you are continuing, then you're giving them fodder, to go out there and convince the people of Kenya. Let's overlook their interests. Reality is that we have a problem, and so they have fodder to hit the government down.
Linda, I think one thing that I really want to also address is what my good friend Rebalaya said. That there reaches to a time when you have to overlook the law and be a gentleman. Honorable Lai and Azimio are telling us now to vacate the law that gives us responsibility to constitute IBC constitutionally and by per the law, and for us start boardroom negotiations. Really, that also confirms how for a very long time Raila Odinga, when he lost the election under Moi regime, he went in for a handshake. Kibaki went in for a handshake. Uhuru went in for a handshake. At one point, even he decided now to go to swear himself in. So I think really we are a regime that promised Kenyan one thing, that we will follow the law, that we will stand by the law, that we will protect and defend the constitution of Kenya. And that's what we are doing. And so for that, if there's anything outside the law, for us, William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua and Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Masika, they're not for that. And that's why I want to really say that even what we are waiting on 20th, I know they want to try something that is outside the law. And we are saying we are in times where we must be able to follow the law. And I remember, by the way, if we are talking about involvement of the people and Azimio, the current panel of IBC went through Parliament. The supreme law-making organ under the Constitution is Parliament, which this particular process went through and was adopted by a Parliament. So really, how other better way can we involve the people if it's not through Parliament? Which the Kenyans themselves in the 2010 Constitution said we are delegating our powers to 349 members of the National Assembly and the Senate and 47 county assemblies. Which other way then do you want to involve the people if it's not through Parliament, which this particular process has gone through? In fact, for us even now to open it up and say, you know what, we are now expanding IBC and bring on board other stakeholders, really in itself is a clear demonstration of the commitment of William Samoei Ruto to be able to carry everybody along in terms of having an all-inclusive IBC, an independent IBC. And lastly, Linda,
allow us to take a quick short break and then come back on that. All right, thank you.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
On the next episode of Grind.
My name is Nikki, full name Wanjiru Wanjiru. I'm the founder of Lux Gifts and Flowers. I actually had the idea back in 2016 thereabouts. I then held the idea and started in 2020, deep in the COVID times.
Monday, 6:30 p.m.
Je, maumivu ya kichwa na kukosesha amani? Kaluma Strong hutuliza maumivu ya kichwa, maumivu ya mwili na hata huondoa joto jingi mwilini. Kaluma Strong ina aspirin kama kiungo. Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana. This is Dr. Frank tonight. And of course, on to our first guest of the night. An amazing actress, an award-winning actress, one of the top influencers right now, a top brand ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, and a lady who I respect, and of course, I'm proud to call her my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, just listening. Are you ready for something there?
Yes.
You ready, yeah?
Yes.
Give me something, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Kate Kamau, aka Kate, actress. How much material
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I'm a lot.
Does it give like, is it like normal time to wear like 10 minutes?
Asha.
Ama like lazima uipangie.
Hii lazima shida ni kwenda kwa choo hiyo tu. Yeah.
But they come to think of it, madam of a jumpsuit. How do you guys go to the washroom? How do you guys deal with that whole thing?
That's why we go in pairs to the bathroom.
No, men, you'll never find men going to the washroom in pairs. And where Richie? I think ladies are so privileged. You guys can even call each other boom, babe, sweetheart. Imagine now I'm now calling Richie. Richie, babe. Unakamjobosa ngapi na saxophone?
But we are okay with that.
Never.
Yeah.
Kate, welcome on the show. You are our first guest ever. Piga makofi.
Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Authentic, natural, planned. Transforming. Endless benefits. Slaty, purely Kenyan. Buy now on Jumia or Amazon.
Hey!
Kaluma King Herbal Lozenges zinazo nguvu maradufu kutuliza kikohozi, vidonda vya koo na mafua. Kaluma King ni shwari.
Tika mama huyo muharifu kaiba kuku zangu, vifaranga wangu na mayai zote pia kabeba. Aya, tika mama huyo.
Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana. This is Dr. Frank tonight. And of course, on to our first guest of the night. An amazing actress, an award-winning actress, one of the top influencers right now, a top brand ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, and a lady who I respect, and of course, I'm proud to call her my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, just listening. Are you ready for something there?
Yes.
You ready, yeah?
Yes.
Give me something, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Kate Kamau, a.k.a. Kate, actress. How much material
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I'm a lot.
Does it even like, is it like normal time to wear like 10 minutes?
Asha.
Ama like lazima uipangie.
Hii lazima shida ni kwenda kwa choo hiyo tu. Yeah.
But they come to think of it, madam you and madam of a jumpsuit. How do you guys go to the washroom? How do you guys deal with that
That's
whole
why
thing?
we go in pairs to the bathroom.
No, men, you'll never find men going to the washroom in pairs. Ati wewe Richie ni aje. Nasikia kusojo, hebu do you see? I think ladies are so privileged. You guys can even call each other boom, babe, sweetheart. Imagine now me, I'm now calling Richie. Richie babe, ni aje. Unakamjobosa ngapi na saxophone?
But we are okay with that.
Never.
Yeah.
Kate, welcome on the show. You are our first guest.
Kaluma Pain Balm ni dawa ya kusugua iliyotengenezwa kutoka kwa miche maalum ili kutuliza maumivu ya misuli. Kaluma Pain Balm. Shh. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari. You're watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
All right, we're back. We're back, Mheshimiwa. We are back. And Mheshimiwa, let us take us back a bit and say, you want to tell us that a serious investor will not look at the social media today. No. If there's something that, pulled Trump down, must be the social media in a huge way. Yeah. And listening to Ndi, who is always constantly on social media, who is your chief advisor as to the question of matters economy, constantly on the social media, updating, enlightening Kenyans on the progress and all that. You want to tell us that someone who's serious will not be keen on what is being said there. He goes ahead to say this: why do I see some middle-class tweeps who are trolling and disparaging wheelbarrows camped here demanding cheap power like it's a matter of life and death? Yet data shows they spent more on DSTV, Netflix, etc. than on power. Powering your microwave ovens is not a priority. That one is a direct shot to our brothers we know.
Let me tell you, Linda, it's actually quite true. Social media has quite a lot of influence on our social life, and that's exactly why it's called a social media. For any serious investor, and this one, please take is that a piece of advice from me. Any serious investor will not just look at the social media. They look at the economic indicators of a given region.
They will look at that, but they will not ignore.
There are people, Rinda, and one of the things that they do not even learn social media accounts, who only sit down from early in the 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and they do not look at anything else other than the indicators of different countries. And they'll tell you, this is the forecast. And why the shares of a country will rise or drop, it's because there are indicators that it's going to merge with a certain company, and new technology is going to come up. This is not determined by the social media. What the social media does, it leaks the information that there is a new nanotechnology that's going to be used by Netflix, and that makes the shares of Netflix rise. Any investor will not look at just what the social media is saying, but what it is actually pointing out. But there are the indicators out there that will point to this. We are talking about a technology that does not exist in the world, and you light along in the social account, it's not going to affect anybody. Anybody wanting to come to Kenya to invest is going to look at that statement, that tweet from D, and say, fine, what he's saying is the cost is not going to come down. And a good investor is going to come and say, I have a technology that will bring the cost down, therefore that is the destination to invest in. This actually only accelerates the spread of information, but does not form the basis upon which decisions are made. That is the fact of the matter. Right. Social media for us here, talking about who did what where, that's very, very important. But for any serious investor, it is not just about a new mineral that has been discovered somewhere. It's about the fact that is the geotechnical survey there? They are going to go to the live place and look for that geotechnical survey and say, yes, this mineral has been found somewhere and it's going to be a good, quite a variable investment. Therefore, let's go and invest there. You cannot make a decision based on what you've read, not even in your newspaper.
You know, Honorable Alai here will tell you that beyond the fact that his people believed in him and what he sold to them, social media was quite instrumental to his
in marketing and in
layers. Yes, we overlooked that. And Mheshimiwa, I cut you short.
Before you come to Mheshimiwa Wanyonyi, what I would like to tell you is that social media is very critical. You remember how the big tech took the decision to remove Donald Trump because of what he was causing, not only the national security, the international security, sometimes even caused global war. You know, they almost everybody unleashing their weapons because of what he has tweeted. You know, the financial markets. If you go to Safaricom today, they'll tell you they have a team just watching what is written on social media, you know, and also the indicators, the things pushed out there, the financial records put out there, the opinions of the various opinion leaders. These things are very key. You know, social media is a very powerful tool which anybody who is trying to underrate it, he doesn't know what he's playing with. You saw the kind of mess we had when President Uhuru left social media, and now people are lost that who do we really speak to, because they used to speak to their accounts and they knew. Even now we know that the president, you know, though he's there for a short while, the president really watches social media.
At least you acknowledge that it's
Elon,
that's a good beginning.
Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla and now CEO of Twitter, is a very powerful, but because of what he tweets, social media posts he put out there, you know. So social media is a very powerful tool for every investor, and any investor coming to have a conversation with you privately could make judgment based on the things they have gleaned on social platforms. You know, the kind of opinions they're seeing, you know, what are the data showing out there? What are the Kenyan opinion shapers, if you're investing in tech, what are the leading tech voices saying about Kenya? What, you know, online. And they not write long pieces on Medium or so on. They are going to be posting very short, cryptic messages on Facebook and Twitter. These things are very critical, and if they are not properly handled, they might even bring down the UDA government. What their influencers say outside there.
Well, because it is good. It's good when I say start. But let's look at the elections in the last general elections. There was a state capture, and there was actually indeed the state drove the media houses and the social media platforms.
Was it?
They invested heavily on it. I can tell you, there were very few media houses that could take me in because they knew I was a supporter of UDA. Today, as it stands, we know that the campaign machinery that was learned in social media to try and discount Rigathi Gachagua and William Ruto as incapable. But yet people decided these are the leaders we want. Social media is a very important tool in PR. But does the PR run the company? No. There are so many other functions, including the financial, the communication department. PR, which is goes in the social media, is just one of the many functions, several functions of a company. Therefore, we cannot look at it exclusively as the source of information. We can look at it, yes, as a marketing tool. We can look at it, yes, as trying to tell people out there what is happening inside the company, but it is not the only function.
And that we agree.
And that's what Honorable Alai is saying is very, very true. They tried to run an effective and social media campaign against the UDA government. They lost. And what he's saying, but I'm very happy that he's now acknowledging that we have a president. That's a very good
for a short time, he says.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. A short time can be a span of 10 years.
Okay.
I agree with you.
The short is relative.
Depending on where you, it's very, very relative. If you are saying yes, he's going to be a president for a short term of 10 years, that one I do agree with you 100% because that are the requirements of the Constitution. But what I'm telling you is that embrace this government because good things, the conversation going behind the scenes that we cannot discuss here on the media are quite many and very, very good. And they know that. And that's why they are hell-bent to make sure that we do not take off. But what I can tell you now, we are on the starting lane, the machine
You're taking so long to take off though, Mheshimiwa, that I must tell you as a Kenyan.
I'm a parent.
Okay.
And I watched my babies grow. In 6 months, they were still toddlers.
Okay.
6 months into the government, some of the new administration, we know that we saw the government 6 months ago, right? We need time to formulate our short-term and medium-term and long-term policies. Now we're just preparing to take off. And I can tell you, watch this space. The things that you're going to see happen in this country, you won't believe it. You won't just believe it.
We are crossing fingers for that. Mheshimiwa, we distracted your line of thought. I don't know whether we could get it back or we shift to a different conversation.
Yeah, but I think, Linda, I want just to say, at least I'm happy that...
there's an acknowledgement that...
Honorable Alai has acknowledged that William Ruto is the President of the Republic of Kenya, which I'm so sure from here, some disciplinary measures will be taken against
and let's talk about them. Let's remind ourselves of these ones that are getting disciplinary measures. The Deputy President yesterday acknowledges that really it's not them that reached out, as those ones that were getting disciplinaries were telling us, but it's actually them that, were getting disciplinary, action that reached out to the other side. Wakasema wacha tupige simu tuombe kufanya kazi na government. Now wakiulizwa wanasema ya kwamba it is the government that made a phone call to them. And do you think it was necessary that they get disciplinary action really?
No, of course, one fact, Leader, is that all of us campaigned in different camps. There was Azimio, there was Kenya Kwanza. But the moment William Ruto was sworn in as president, we had a government. And that then it did not matter to whether you are in Azimio or you are in Kenya Kwanza, we had one government. And that's why I continue saying that the draft of the Constitution did not contemplate opposition. This thing of the opposition is just a creation of Azimio. But ideally, all of us must work together to move this country forward.
Is it not what the president says, that I want a strong opposition? So what does he mean when he knows very well that the crafters of the Constitution did not envision for that? What is this majority-minority?
Majority and minority is, we cannot really now term minority as opposition. And the law does not say that. The law says we only have majority and minority. All of us are under duty to check the executive. So
do you agree with the president that there's need for us to have a strong opposition?
Yes.
Of course, I think really, Linda, let me say this. Today, it's Uhuru Kenyatta who is in retirement. Tomorrow, it will be William Ruto will be in retirement. So I think really we must find a way of ensuring that we keep some of these guys who are not in government busy.
We avoid the winner takes it.
Yes, we stop this issue of the winners taking 100% everything, and these other people just remaining there idle. So
is that not what majority-minority then?
It is not. That's not. That's where we are going. That is where we are going. But that's not where we are. Yes. Where we are, the question is very clear that we have one government. We have, under that government, we have three arms of government: the judiciary, the executive, and the parliament. Nowhere in the question we talk about opposition. So, and that's what the president is saying. Rather than having a system where the winner takes it all, and if we have to speak and accommodate this other team, he must do it outside the constitution, the way Honorable Lai is saying that it must be gentleman. We don't want to be gentlemen. We want to anchor this in the constitution and have an office of the leader of opposition funded by the taxpayers with clear mandate and responsibility. So really, and that's why I think it's important that for me, while it was not really a matter of urgency, but it's really important for us to keep the opposition and rather Azimio busy and with a clear mandate to check the government. Really, we need to create that in law. And second, I was just saying this, Linda, on the issue of the IBC. You know, while we are really, Azimio is really loud on how the IBC is supposed to be formed and constituted. Really, they had 4 members of IBC. 4.
Were they their members?
Yes.
Cherera 4?
Cherera
4 was Azimio. And did they go through vetting really, parliament and all this? Why would
so they had 4
And you
members.
had 3?
They had the majority
And you had
of
3.
IBC.
Yeah.
We had, for us, we don't have anybody in the IBC. Yes, we only had God and the people.
Is it?
The people.
So why did you people decide to go against the 4, which were the majority? And I think the Right Honourable Raila Odinga has spoken to that.
What has removed
if
them?
really the 4 have said that there is a problem, they have said that we're not going to be party to the announcement that is going to be made.
Well,
legally speaking.
In a country like ours, and
Yes.
I think let's face it, in a country like ours, where we say he who pays the piper calls the tune.
Yes.
The most unfortunate thing is that you'll stand there and actually do read a report knowing so well it's not true, and the leader of opposition takes the same and reads out and knows it's not true. That's very unfortunate.
How do we know that it's
However,
not true?
the facts do speak.
Okay.
The election of this country, and thanks to the Constitution of 2010 and the Supreme judgment, the judgment that was passed by the Supreme Court, the polling ends at the polling station.
I don't know how much
And
the Azimio
Chebukati,
team,
in his
Mheshimiwa,
wisdom, he decided we are going to do a two-way. You know, you can never rely on technology.
Yes.
Take a snapshot of the form. As you submit, you'll have a photo, an editable, in PDF format. And he said, I'm going to put this in a portal where anybody with a simple calculator, including myself or anybody else, we did run our own secretariat and tallying centers where we actually knew even long before.
So to you, the server
elections-
was open all through.
it was actually open from the
process.
word go,
Okay.
and they know it. So to add on what Honorable Nyonyi is saying here, why we need to have the leader of opposition officially is because you see, majority and minority, those are elected people, members of the parliament. Laira and Kalonzo are the ones on the ballot. They're out in the cold. With the office of the...
It was Raila and Martha Karua.
And Martha Karua, yes.
Kalonzo was to be Prime Minister.
Yes, he was supposed to be the
Was
Prime
it?
Minister.
Okay.
He was also in the equation. But you see, these important figures and national figures, and they did like a campaign and they had like almost 49% of the country. When they are out there in the cold, you'd expect them to do nothing else than throw stones. But if they had offices officially recognized, then they would be contained. It is the spirit of the winner takes it all that actually leads to this consistent, every 5 years we have someone making noise out there. So what we are saying for posterity, it's not about Laira. We are saying for posterity, let's have a situation where if you and I contest for a presidential election and you happen to win, I don't have to stay out there in the cold. I'll have an official capacity.
So that is in the interest of an individual.
No, not individual.
How is that in the interest?
Individual and the team.
Individual
and
the team, including these Kenyans that we speak. Okay.
See, it's not about an individual. It's the team that I read.
Okay.
That they feel we are part of the government, quasi in the other side. Remember in the previous constitution that we had, the opposition could even form a shadow cabinet where they would actually sit down and say, this is the budget that has been led by the government. This could have been our budget. Today we have, yes, the leader of the minority, but that's just an elected member of parliament who contested in a certain constituency and won. But the presidential figure who did participate in the presidential election is nowhere in that formula, because previously you could have someone contest as a president and also as a member.
Where will the money come from? I'm just looking at the paper this morning, and the Public Service Commission writes letter to protest moved by salaries body, and that they're supposed to lose on some parks. So where would we get money to fund the opposition office?
Let me tell you.
If
we stop wastages in this country,
Okay.
if we seal the leakages, we have more money than you would believe in.
Okay.
And
Honorable
that's where the money
Alai.
come from.
Yes.
We are sealing the leakages.
Honorable Alai.
And once now we've done away with the Jubilee government,
Yeah.
and we're making sure that there is nobody, because you've born out of a president's that you're not going to pay taxes. We are demanding 1.3 trillion from one individual. 1.4 trillion is half of our budget. And I'm saying, hello, if they all paid, we would have more than enough money to give everyone.
Yes. You will agree with this gentleman.
Yes. Even himself would actually be enjoying if these guys paid the taxes.
Yes.
And he's actually admitting, and that's, I think Laila would not advocate that. Actually, Laila was pushing in not paying taxes.
Okay.
He's a good citizen.
Yeah.
And I believe he joined the wrong person, and that is why they actually started evading taxes. And Alai, being a patriotic Kenyan, would say, every Kenyan must pay taxes. And I would want to hear him actually not say the same.
I know he would agree with the fact that we all need to pay taxes.
No, I think it's very funny here sitting and listening to them. That's why I left them speak. They had the meeting that they had the minority of the commission. So they got into power through the back door. Secondly, they are at the meeting that, Raila is not an individual. Raila has people behind him.
Yeah.
And these people are 60% more than, of the country. They are admitting here, and that's why they're insisting that it is not about Raila. It is about his team.
Yeah.
And this team is big. That's why we have to create these offices. These people are admitting everything. That's why I left them to speak. So, sometimes you cannot lie for long. And I wish that this country would realize that we need the handshake. And the UDA needs it more than us. We are doing them a favor.
So that's what you've been angling for.
No, UDA needs.
You're also admitting that is the handshake that you're angling for.
No, let me tell you what. Because people have given up a dialogue many names.
Yeah.
And the convenient name here is the handshake. It is the easiest name for even somebody in Turkana.
An arrangement is what is
Yes, an arrangement. We need to have a cohesive society. Remember, this country grew most when at least there was quiet. When people were working together. This country is too big for us to have exclude other. The gain of Linda is not a loss of a lie.
Yeah.
This country is too big for all of us. You can enjoy, you can prosper. The only problem, if you fly, when you are campaigning for the BBI, which they lied against, and when you are campaigning for the BBI, I had opportunity to fly through this country with a chopper. From Turkana to Nairobi, you fly over Turkana for 1.5 hours. Turkana is big,
yeah.
Very big. You fly over Baringo 5 minutes, unamaliza Baringo yote. You unaingia na Laikipia, it's very short, 10-15 minutes unamaliza yote. Then you get into Nairobi, you land in Nairobi. Let me tell you, everybody is concentrated up. Nanyuki up. This country has untapped potential. I wish that you look like. When you're talking about raising money, the problem when I see that we are talking about the wage bill, the SRC discussion here. They are talking about the relation between the wage bill and the various development versus recurrent expenditure.
Yeah.
I wish that we focus on raising the revenue, because we were criticizing these regimes and these waheshimiwas when we were on the other side. When I got into the office, the pay I earn is 144,000. This pay, I'm also given 100,000 for 3 months to set up an office in Kilaresho. That includes pay rent and pay staff. With 100,000, how are you going to manage that? For somebody in Kainuk, where you can get an office for 1,000 shillings, maybe. For somebody in Ahero, where you can get an office 1,000, 2,000, maybe it's possible. But in Nairobi, where will you get an office? So you need to fund properly the devolved units. These waheshimiwas, when they serve for 2 terms, they'll get pension.
Yeah.
None, we have MCAs like Kados who have gone for 5 terms. They are not accorded that facility.
5 terms?
5 terms.
MCA.
Somebody was, elected
from councillor to MCA.
From 1997. 1997.
Yes,
so councillor, it's the same.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I agree.
What I should have been looking at our motions.
Yes.
We actually passing a law in the Senate that was sponsored by Senator King of Laikipia. He was a councillor.
Yes.
And we said, as we were arguing, it is actually not fair. Someone who served as a councillor, now is an MCA and then for 2 or 3 terms, actually just works and gets nothing. If you look at that, we have, I think it's in the second reading, because we came into the realization that we must have fairness in this game.
Right.
And that's what you're talking about. These are some of the things that Kenya Kwanza is doing, and you guys cannot see. So I think it's good that you
see, and also
I've told you,
Linda,
that you do not have to worry. If you serve your second term, you'll have your pension.
Okay.
Courtesy of the Kenya Kwanza government.
So
you can see we're doing good things.
Linda, you see in this newspaper, when SRC Lynn Mengichi is talking about removing sitting allowance.
Yes.
We came back in February around mid-February. Since then, we have had more than 8 quorum hitches because nobody feels like they should be in that assembly because it earns them. So they'd rather go for a committee meeting, which earns them an allowance. You see, so you lack quorum. When you want to pass a bill, a motion, you want to get a statement, you want to drive some business in the house, you get quorum hitches because people don't feel that they're being rewarded enough to sit in that assembly.
Or should they be rewarded? Is it not supposed to be service?
You know, let me tell you, in the work of a legislator, that plenary job is the least tedious. It's one of the minor duties of the legislature. The hard pulling, the heavy lifting you do in the committees, you know, when you are in a committee like the Public Accounts Committee, or you are in the Budget Committee, or you're in the Transport and Labor, or you're in the Planning, you do, and it stresses you. By the time you get into the plenary, you are completely wasted because you're dealing with big numbers, you're asking hard questions, you're trying to engage government officials who sometimes have looted the money in various sectors. People are bringing in projects they want to build, and you have to query, and you go in item by item. It is very heavy work. Sometimes Kenyans think that when you get into the plenary, that's the only thing you're doing. When you're doing site visits, when you're visiting the projects which have been done and you're trying to review that, did you accomplish A, did you do this, did you achieve? When you're trying to ask, they put the governor to task. You know, it is very hard. They have to be that plenary. So sometimes when you come from the committee and you feel so tired, maybe an allowance will make you go there. And also, let me tell you, with 144,000 in Nairobi, you are encouraging corruption.
Yeah.
Because Nairobi is a very big, you control 60% of the GDP. Then you pay these MCAs 144,000. Now you see how Nairobi is turning. Every area is turning into a concrete slum. Because these people are cutting corners even in building. You see, people are building beacon to beacon. You're building places. You're even interfering. Kileleshwa, the maximum allowed floors is 4 floors. People are building 20 floors. Because probably the area planning leader is being paid an extra fee for an extra floor. You see, people are cutting corners in all these things because you are encouraging corruption by paying these people less.
Why do you go for these positions then when you realize this? And then we ask ourselves, is it a question of the morals or reality? We need to have a
you never have 360 degrees understanding of these things until you get there.
Yes, that's
sometimes when sometimes people, also people get into politics because people want to be called Weshimiwa. Very few people understand kwamba, what am I supposed to do?
Allow us to take a quick short break, gentlemen, and then come back on that very note.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia speciali ili kupambana.
Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana. This is Dr. Frank tonight. And of course, on to our first guest of the night. An amazing actress, an award-winning actress, one of the top influencers right now, a top brand ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, and a lady who I respected, of course. I'm proud to call her my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, DJ listening, are you ready for something there?
Yes.
You ready, yeah?
Yes.
Give me something, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Kate Kamau, aka Kate, actress. How much material
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I'm a lot.
Does it give like, is it like normal time to wear like 10 minutes?
Asha.
Ama like lazima uipangie.
Hii lazima shida ni kwenda kwa choo hiyo tu. Yeah.
But they come to think of it, madam of a jumpsuit. How do you guys go to the washroom? How do you guys deal with that?
That's why we go in pairs to the bathroom.
No, men, you'll never find men going to the washroom in pairs. And where Richie niaje. Nasikia kusojo. Hebu do you see? I think ladies are so privileged. You guys can even call each other boo, babe, sweetheart. Imagine now I'm now calling Richie. Richie babe, niaje. Unakamjobosa ngapi na saxophone?
But we are okay with that.
Never.
Yeah.
Kate, welcome on the show. You are our first guest ever. Piga makofi. Ndio nyumba yetu mpya tuko na interior design round hii.
Hii ni Wajakoya ama
check relax. Usiseme na nguvu we. Nakada wanawatch, nakada.
Ni sponsored.
Let me ask, have you ever tried?
No, what is that?
Eh?
No.
Haujawahi? Under by mistake.
But now I know it because of Wajakoya.
Oh really? So hujaipita kwa campaign ya Wajakoya by mistake.
All right, gentlemen, we are back. Honorable Alai Robert is with us this morning, as well as Martin Wanyonyi, and lastly, Mheshimiwa Wahome Wamatinga is as well with us this morning as we unpack some of the activities that are playing out in the country. Valid points being raised right there, and like Honorable Alai will tell you, until you are in the job, you might not understand. Now, it makes more sense when you hear, members of county assembly asking for more, a certain fund that is supposed to be channeled towards them so that they can work for the people. And it's even worse when you visit them in their homes and you realize that as early as 6 a.m., the members of the society, the villagers are around there equally waiting to see what Mheshimiwa can do to them. And some of them have to leave their houses as early as 5 a.m. At least when I invite them for the show, and they have to show up so that at least they can run away from these difficulties. How do you tell your people you don't have a coin to give them? But all the same, is it a question of morals? Is it about making money when you get there? And Nyerere once said he does not understand how people get excited of, becoming presidents and, can even kill to be president when the task there is quite difficult. Let's shift gears shortly, briefly, and look at not the appointments first, because there's been a lot of talk about the appointments that the president is making. But UDA, if you listen to Honorable Robert Alai, gentlemen, you'll realize that he speaks about the UDA government, yes, and not the Kenya Kwanza government. Is it the Kenya Kwanza government or the UDA government?
The UDA. I think Linda, first let me also just
support what Mheshimiwa
what Honorable Alai has just said before we enter the short break. Honestly, this constitution as it is has been so unfair to the MCS. I remember just a few weeks to election, I was told I'm supposed to resign because I'm a state officer and I'm an MCA for me to run as a member of parliament. Which is the same case, is not the same case with a member of parliament who wants to run for governor or wants to run for senator. That today, a member of parliament can enjoy a car grant, an MCA is supposed to be given a car loan. That after 2 terms, diligently having served as an MCA, you don't qualify for pension. So I agree with the Honorable Alai that I think it's time, because the challenges, the issues around the common mwananchi revolves around the MCA. The primary defender of mwananchi is the MCA. And really for me, as national parliament, really it's our duty and responsibility to also help in terms of improving the welfare of the MCS. They are our fellow leaders. They are doing more or less the job of a village elder in our constituencies. So really I agree that it's also time we rethink and see how within the confines of the constitution we can be able to really improve the welfare. Secondly, you've raised the issue of, what was it?
UDA.
UDA.
Whether it's a UDA or a Kenya Kwanza government, and this I would love for us to align to the conversation that has been
Linda,
here. We want a strong party.
Linda, I think one, we've said when we were campaigning that our fidelity to the rule of law is beyond reproach, and really that's what we stand for as Kenya Kwanza. What brought this government in place was a Kenya Kwanza plan and MOU, constituting of more than one party. So the government that we have now is a Kenya Kwanza government, composed of the UDA party, led by the president, ANC, led by Musalia Mudavadi, Ford Kenya, led by Moses Masika Wetangula. That's the government that we're having now. And so, of course, I know we've had previously we've had conversations on how best we can move forward, which for me as Martin, I also support the president. That as we head to 2027 elections, which for me is okay, which for us again is not an issue now, because the issues that what's important for us now is to deliver to the people of Kenya. But as we plan for the future, we must really find a way of how best can we improve, strengthen, make Kenya Kwanza more inclusive as well the next election. But I think really that conversation should be a conversation that should not be prosecuted in press conferences, in funerals, in public barazas. It should be a conversation that should be a preserve for me of the president and his friends. So I agree we need to improve and see how best we can move forward as Kenya Kwanza. But the government of now is a Kenya Kwanza government led by William Samuel Ruto, deputized by Rigathi Gachagua. Musalia is there, and in the legislature we have Moses Masika Wetangula.
And then there was a merger, Honorable Alai, the Jubilee merger. Before we know it, certainly it is the government, and therefore then it interests every other individual in the country, because this is the government of the day. The same that we witnessed today with the Kenya Kwanza government. This one not a merger, but more of an alliance. And so talks around that, well, how about we fold some of these parties and gel them into UDA and have one big party, more or less like a merger. Then we have some few who are rebellious to that. There are others who agree to that. There are others who have literally folded their own parties to join the UDA. And we ask ourselves, this is how it began, and the Jubilee House was not a house that people could sit in. And that trickled down to the common mwananchi because of the effects of the same. Do we really want to see what is playing out right now? Is this history sort of repeating itself?
Yeah, you see, this is why we have the president who looks forward to a very cohesive family called Kenya. Because what is even evident now is that they don't even trust each other in UDA, in Kenya Kwanza. And that's why you see, I told you, the people who need Azimio is not the people in Azimio.
I hope you people will go with this message, because clearly
let me tell
something
you,
that Robert Alai is telling us.
If you go to Ford Kenya and you ask them that should the president talk to Raila or not, they'll tell you the president should talk to Raila. If you go to ANC and ask them the same, if you go to all these other fringe parties, they'll say you want to have a very quiet government without all this hullabaloo. And also Raila has a lot of ideas. They know that the president in place today does not have an idea on how to get Kenya out of this economic mess.
But how helpful were those ideas during the handshake?
The Jubilee government.
Let me tell you, what Raila was a friend to the president. And the good citizen and leader Raila believed, even when the president gave him an option of using the state machinery, he said no, please. I want to win.
Did he?
Free.
That's quite
let me tell you, if you speak to the people in Azimio, even people who are in Wiper and Jubilee, they'll tell you the president even gave Raila the option of at least getting an appointment in government, getting some government machinery during elections. Raila said no. I want to win this free, fair, uncontested. You see, we didn't know that the security services and the intelligence services were under the capture. And it's very evident. For us, we know a lot. Sometimes we don't share for the sake of this country, because we love this country. If it was these people, they'll be opening something called the Hassas National Intelligence Bureau. If it was left to them, they will be sharing everything. And because we love the things which is called the belly of the country, we are not going to share everything, because for the sake of national peace and security. But let me tell you, as it is now, these people don't trust each other. And you see what happened when Malala crossed from ANC to UDA. See what he became. He started talking down to his bosses telling them on how fast they should fold their parties. And they're telling, oh, young man, please, Kenyaga, break kidogo. What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
You know, we don't trust these people called UDA. Can you just relax kidogo? We see how this government pans out fast before you tell us that we need to fold our parties and join Nini there. And, you know, I like the idea of having two parties.
Yeah.
Because these people, it will emerge. These people who are in Kenya Kwanza, half of them will come to Azimio.
Okay.
This is the place they can trust most.
Okay.
If you fold and get two parties,
they would rather fold to Azimio,
Azimio to Kenya
than to
Kwanza.
fold to
80% in Azimio.
Okay.
Because we don't force anybody, we don't intimidate anybody. A Raila government will not have strong arm tactics to try to discipline everybody to force them to talk.
Is that, you think that is how tough it is for them on the other side?
Yes, you know, I think they intimidated. You see what was, you know, the president was trying to say that, oh, you know, I want a strong opposition. But here, Chini was buying parties. He was buying individuals.
It was them that were going to...
You know,
I think the Honorable is quite generous on this one. But I want also to give it to him. And let me give you the narrative of Bugaros. They don't head together because they love each other.
Yeah.
They do that because they want to protect each other. We in the Kenya Kwanza, we know that we must protect each other. The hustlers of this nation, people who've been denied opportunity to realize their full potential the last 60 years, have finally come together and found a home in the Kenya Kwanza government where they vote together and believe that they can together and united be able to achieve their potential. These are people who've actually chosen to free themselves, no longer to become hostages of the dynasties.
Okay.
These are the people that Honorable Allah is talking about. It could be true that we are not together because we love each other, but we are there because we know that our best opportunity and our best chance of realizing our potential and freeing ourselves from the hostage and the slavery of the dynasties is actually home.
And that whatever it is that you're forming right now is not going to be a dynasty in future?
This is not going to be a dynasty. So therefore, when Honorable Allah says that we would rather go to Azimio, I would want to tell you, and it's a fact, Raila was a very, very potential leader them days. His days are over. He does not have any new ideas. If you want to learn about the history of this country, talk to him. If you want to look at the future, come to the Kenya Kwanza government. As much as he's saying that we want to fold parties, I can tell you, all the advanced democracies in this world, they have 2 or 3 strong parties. That would be the optimal situation that we would want to achieve. However, the Azimio must try and push it down our throat that we are not united, that we must fight, because they cannot believe that hustlers, kids of nobody, people who do not have names that are capable of taking their destiny in their hands and forging forward. That is what I would want to ask Honorable Arai. We are determined. I would want to welcome into our fold. You actually have such a great potential, of course, with Kenya Kwanza. In Azimio praise that you're dealing in the past. And I can tell you, don't be scared. Come and join us, because I know that you want to deliver for your people in Kirereshwa, but you cannot do it when you're fighting there and throwing stones. What you can do is come, be accommodative for everybody. You saw even accommodate those who are in Jubilee, including electing one of the Jubilee lieutenants, Kanini Kega, to become a member of the Yara Parliament. Why? Because we do not want to dwell on the past. We want to move forward. We want to unite this country. And that's exactly what we're doing. What, of course, disappoints the Azimio guys is that they think it has taken too long for us to disintegrate, because they do not believe that people who have no big names can hold together. And I'm telling them, watch this space. We are going to be united for a common cause, and that is the plan of the Kenya Kwanza government to deliver this country from the hostage and change of the dynasties. That is what unites us.
Dr. Keegan says, tell him, senior friend in the world, agrees with you 100%. I think should be a lie, because he says NC, Ford Kenya and smaller parties within the Kenya Kwanza want dialogue. The USA and the Britain are pushing for this dialogue. And perhaps we've even heard some of these leaders, you know, in as much as they're not outrightly saying it, they're saying, Ongeni, you know, Mdavadi has said, can we talk? The likes of Sakaja have said, can we talk? So deep down, the parties within perhaps could be wishing for conversation.
See, Linda, let me be honest. Every Kenyan, including the President of the Republic of Kenya, is ready and willing to talk to Azimio, to Raila Amolo Odinga. The only thing that cannot happen is for us to have a handshake. For us to have a Nusumkate government like the one of Uhuru Kenyatta and Kibaki. You cannot do the same thing the same way and expecting the same results. the maandamano, the picketing, the demonstrations, Raila has done under Kibaki. He did under Moi, he did under Uhuru, and got his way.
I will remind you what he said. Let me try and find that so that I get the exact words, yes? Oh, this is what he says. The same tactics will work because those in power have never changed their style of leadership, ethnicity, corruption, favoritism. So when you come out to castigate him and say that, you know, we know your game and all that, he says that very game that I played then will work because those ones that are in power have not changed their tactics either.
William Samoei Ruto has been in power for only 6 months. Yes. For only 6 months. He took over power at a time when Uhuru Kenyatta and his team took 15 billion within 26 minutes.
It takes 3 months for one to go through probation and for an employer to decide whether they're going to retain or keep them or let go of them.
And that's why today, that probation they're talking about, we've used 6 months to try to craft and come up with the enabling legislations and policies to have our program work. And that's why Honorable Senator here has told you that now we are ready to go. Because most of the legislation that we wanted to be put in place, right from the housing program, the UHC, universal healthcare program, to around manufacturing, agriculture and all that, we are moving with the speed to have those in place. And so for me, I think 6 months down the line, we are ready to go. And what we are only saying, handshake, you know what handshake did to this country. For 5 years, we wasted so much money around the issue of the BBI and the issue of ensuring that Raila is comfortable and his people. We cannot again repeat that mistake of wasting time just to address the needs and the interests of one person and these few people. So really, the president is clear. We want to talk, and he's talking, by the way. They are talking.
Okay, are they?
Even today in Parliament, Kimani Ichung'wah, leader of majority, they oftenly and regularly consult with my friend Opio Wandai. When you go to the Senate, same thing is happening. And the worst bit, you know, we need to be honest, Linda. When you talk about Azimio being the safest and secure coalition for any member to be in, today, when you go to the Senate, since the formation of the majority coalition in the Senate, we've never had any changes in the formation of, in the composition of committees at the detriment of any member within the Kenya Kwanza coalition. Same thing in the Parliament. But then when you go to a minority in the Senate, Fatuma Gedi, she was removed arbitrarily, without due process, without consultation. Same thing in the National Assembly. Many members of Azimio are being removed and whipped from committees by virtue of their political stand. And so if there is any coalition that is dishonest, that is unfair, and that is not even there's not even human, and is Azimio. And that's why for us we are saying, you know, even within Kenya, there are members sometimes who have divergent opinion. But that does not that has not made our leaders to move them to de-whip them from committees.
Okay.
Because we appreciate that we are a democracy, and sometimes members, in the course of moving this country forward, in the course of enriching motions, policies, and legislations, we have divergent opinions. But look at Azimio. If you try, ukisema tu hivi. And that's why. And that's why you're seeing even my friend Ali is very careful with his words, because he knows by tomorrow he'll be doing.
Kimani Cairo is saying dialogue does not mean half bread. No, that is not true. At this UDA members living on Venus, How do you buy fuel from Dubai for 641 billion when Dubai imports from Russia and Iran? Is Kenya not heading on sanction list? Perhaps those are questions that are supposed to be answered by this gentleman that are here. But Alai, you are calling it date to destiny, a date with destiny, a date with destiny, 20th March. What to expect?
Linda, before Ali comes in, kindly, you know, Baba that day said in Migori that is his last speech in Nyanza. He might come back alive or dead. Okay. So what is this that is on 20th?
We're even scared for a moment. Yeah. We are scared.
You see when Kindiki threatens individuals in Nairobi and cannot, if you give Baba the kind of state machinery Kindiki has in Kainuk and West Pokot and Marakwet areas, we would contain the banditry in a very short while, because we have the best strategy. The thing, you know,
I lied.
when you hear Linda,
yes,
when you hear Honorable Nyonyi here and Honorable Senator saying this, that, you know, Azimio is unfair when they remove people from committees for disagreeing with them. This Kenya Kwanza saying they want to strengthen opposition. They are saying that opposition should remain opposition, government should remain government. But they want their members who are in opposition only by name to be in opposition and hold house leadership. They control opposition and they control government. What kind of a mess do you want? They are saying they are calling the handshake government a mongrel because they don't know whether it is opposition or it's government or it's opposition within government or government within opposition. They didn't understand. But they want that thing today with Sabina Chege, with Fatuma Gedi and all these other leaders. Mtu anasema kwa UDA, but he wants to be the leader of Jubilee, Secretary General, Kanini Kega. You see, he's wearing, if you want to be in UDA, go to UDA. If you want to be the leader of Azimio, be a leader of Azimio. And I wish that they didn't prolong that fight of minority versus majority. You see, the senators, Azimio senators walking out because of the push and pull about the House leadership. I wish they didn't allow that, because it's diluting their argument against Azimio. Right. I hope they realize that what we need today, like they are saying, is that Azimio people to remain in Azimio and UDA people to remain in UDA. Because we want to remove them. Yeah. We want to remove them when we are intact. we are going to dislodge this government when we are intact. You know, let me tell you, William Ruto, the president, threatens people very many times. But we have never seen a worse coward than this. We have never seen a president whom you threaten. You know, only Moi did this. Moi, you remember Moi built the fence around State House in a record 10 days when we told him that we are going to march into State House. Now, you're seeing William Ruto has deployed lorries and lorries of GSU 1 kilometer away from State House. Today, the MCA of Kilimani cannot access his office because there are 2 permanent GSU Land Rovers at his gate. They are waiting for MCA Moses Ogeto to step into his office. Today, there's a field near Lavington Mall called Facebook. If you go to Facebook today, that big open field, you cannot access that one because the government fears that you might organize a demonstration from there. Imagine where Lavington Mall is from State House. These people, we have never seen worse.
But you know the implications of if you successfully march to State House.
But you know, security is not. It doesn't have to be physical. Okay. It is intelligence driven. Today, if you go, let me tell you one secret you don't know about Nairobi County. Nairobi County collects revenue through a system called NRS, which is also a mongrel. Nobody knows where it's hosted, who signed the contract, how it was procured, the service level agreement. We don't know where it came from. But it's being run by the intelligence. It is the reward William Ruto gave the intelligence community for being able to rig him into power. Okay. But that system still, these people fear checks and balances. We have never seen are fearful. We have never seen people who are so weak in themselves. Tukasema tu kwamba these people, just give them 2-3 days. You see? So we believe in the next instance, if William Ruto be very lucky, which I don't see a chance of him getting lucky and finishing his term of 5 years.
Let me-
Wait, Senator. Wait, Senator.
Senator, we'll come to you. We'll come
Wait, Senator.
It's a compliment I wanted to give.
Wait, Senator.
In acknowledging,
If
it is actually called point of information in Parliament.
No,
I just
only
wanted
if
to
I'm
inform
willing.
you. Yes, Ruto is very a fearing man because he's a God-fearing man.
No.
Like Rigathi Gachagua. I just wanted to inform you on that one, so that now moving forward, you know that what you're saying is a God-fearing man. It's actually true.
If Ruto gets his luck and become a president for 5
5
years,
years.
which I don't see a chance of him lasting for even 1 year. If he gets his luck and become a president for 5 years, what is going to happen is that he's going to try to ensure that he imports enough Kalenjins to be MCAs and MPs in Nairobi.
Like, what are you telling us? Are you getting the Kenyans worried? Are you saying that you're planning to overthrow government?
I'm seeing a government insecure within itself.
Okay.
I'm seeing a government which doesn't. If you see the importation in Kileleshwa today, we have a place called Bomet. It became Bomet in the last 2 years.
What are you insinuating? That
He's importing people to try to change the dynamics of the Nairobi politics. This is a government which is very insecure within itself.
Okay.
I wish that the people in Kenya Kwanza realize that the enemy within themselves is UDA and not Azimio. They will run to Azimio. They need Azimio.
Interesting. Interesting. And you know, it's because time is not on our side, and I'd love for us to expound this conversation further and even get to extents of appointments. And perhaps they're the very same people who are saying that now it is the president who's appointing people from his own tribe, which I think is perhaps misplaced, because we always say appointments should be done on merit. And some of these people have documents that, you know, indicate that they're well, you know, set to perhaps be able to handle some of these, you know, positions that they have been accorded. And so misplaced, but again, there could be a valid point on the aspect of tribe and the aspect of region. But here we are, we have to sum it up very quick.
Thank you very much, Linda. Let me first start by thanking Honorable Arai for actually acknowledging that Ruto is a God-fearing man. That is actually a very, very good step, and also acknowledging that he's the president of this country. What the Azimio government is, the Azimio people are disappointed and very, very afraid of is that this government, which has been brought into place through prayers and a lot of dedication, because they had the system, they had the deep state, they had the money machinery, they had the security, and they were not able to secure leadership. They know that what we've done through prayers, what we've done through you being united for a common cause is going to propel us to high height. I can tell Honorable Arai, watch this space. We are going to deliver what we promised the Kenyans, and the president and his deputy, being God-fearing people, of course, they are not going to use the state machinery, state capture, to oppress anybody like was used by the former regime. And maybe these are some of the things that the opposition, the Azimio, needs to accept and to acknowledge. Kenyans have made a decision and they've decided they're going to take their destiny in their own hands. They're going to push things forward. We are only requesting that those who are in the former government to pay their taxes, to return what they took us forcefully, the 15 billion that was withdrawn within 26 minutes. Once they do that, then they let us land. They wait for them 5 years to come. We compete again. If they win, well and fine.
Okay.
But I don't see them having any chance of winning in this country, because what is in the store for us in the Kenya Kwanza government, what we promised our people, liberating them from the oppression, it's on the way and it's coming.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Linda. I think, Linda, I want to just pick up from where Moesha Lai has left, that William Ruto is trying all means and ways to ensure that Nairobi is a Kalenjin-led county. I think really, what is politics? Politics is both tact and strategy. If that strategy is the one that will see him secure majority MCS in Nairobi, then for me, that's the best strategy. So be it. Politics is so much about winning, and it doesn't matter which formula you'll use to win. What will count ultimately is, have you really achieved what you wanted? And so I'm so sure if you ask Mheshimiwa here, he will also tell you the amount of strategies he used. He might have even imported 1,000 voters from my constituency, Webuye East. You never know. So, yeah, so really for me, rather than really crying about the strategy that William Ruto is using, also work around your own counter strategies to ensure that you maintain Nairobi as it is. Secondly, I want just to call upon the country. We know we are in difficult moment. There's drought, the lives of Kenyans. Kenyans are suffering. It's a moment for us to come together. For us to be able to support William Samoei Ruto to deliver on his mandate. I think really the times of division, the time of demonstrations are behind us. Just want to call upon the opposition. William Ruto went through all the process, through the ballot, through the Supreme Court, and all this process he was cleared to be the President of the Republic of Kenya. With IBC, whose majority commissioners were on the side of Azimio, with the system and the deep state on the side of Azimio, and William Ruto won this election. So I think really it's incumbent upon the rest of us to support him at this difficult moment to deliver on his mandate. And finally, we also want to tell our friends within Kenya Kwanza. I know we've had issues around parties are being dissolved, Ford Kenya is being dissolved, ANC is being dissolved. So we've had some level of disquiet within the coalition. And I'm happy that Deputy President even clarified yesterday that the conversations around dissolving of the party is a very, very serious conversation. It's a conversation of critical centrality within the Kenya Kwanza coalition, which cannot just be handled carelessly in the press conferences. So really I want to assure our people that we are intact as Kenya Kwanza, and we are leaving this to the President and his friends to come up with the best way of building, strengthening, and having a more inclusive Kenya Kwanza team as we head to the next election.
All right. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. In about 30 seconds or less than a minute, Honorable Alai, don't you think then you miss out on the moments and the times to serve your people if you're out there, you know, these sessions of, I don't want to call them demonstrations, but they are, and even the grand one that we await on the 20th?
People should not fear demonstrations, especially if they know that they are performing their duties. They need to be secure within themselves, within their governments. They need not to know, they need not to worry about citizens rising and removing them from power if they know that they're performing. As Azimio government is acting within the Constitution, we are going to ensure that we are not going to go outside the Constitution when we deliver the Kenyans away out of this current mess. The current mess is a mongrel which is going to eat Kenyans alive, and we are going to ensure that they don't succeed in removing Kenyans. If you allow GMOs to succeed in this country, you're going to destroy this country. If you allow the Western powers to introduce the IMF and World Bank measures which destroy these economies, you remember the structural adjustment programs which the World Bank introduced and destroyed this economy, we are not going to allow them. We must raise the revenue. I wish we reduced VAT, but ensure that more players pay it. I wish that we reduce the taxes. 30% taxation of the people employed in this country, it is very painful. Let's reduce it to 15%, but ensure that more people pays it. You can't have just less than 1 million people paying the payees and hope that you'll solve the economic mess with that. We ensure, it is sometimes very encouraging to see some 1 or 2, 3 things they're trying to do, but it's like very few wins, but much losses Kenya is going to experience. Wait for the 20th, because we are going to deliver these people from this government which fears the least of opposition.
20th is not very far. We can only wait. Kaikai says the USA has removed the support they give because of such things. Perhaps just alluding to what Robert Alai has said. And they say the only thing left is redemption for the people of Kenya, redemption strategy. And of course, that is the only way we can manage this. Redemption strategy could be huge. It depends, on how you look at it, but definitely it's in line with having a conversation and of course getting everybody else on the table. Gentlemen, we have to close it on this very point. I know there's so much that we need to look into, but time would not allow us. We always leave these conversations open, and with the rest that will be joining us for the week, we'll definitely speak to them as we continue and as we watch to see how things will unfold, awaiting for the 20th. grant.
Thank you so much.
Nothing will happen. There's nothing on 28th.
There's nothing on the 20th.
We are going to...
Okay, here, last speaker, Honorable Robert Alai, the Member of County Assembly Kileleshwa, the Member of Parliament, that is of